in the back corner when I'm not presenting.
Listening in.
And listen in.
Hey everybody, welcome to Bass University Live here on Tuesday night.
Take a quick break, watch John Cruz's on the Tokyo rig.
Be a part of the show, get some chances to win some awesome prizes.
Just Bass You Go. You know, we didn't have that back then, and dude, it can just...
That text thread gives me so much energy. I mean, like I'm dialed. Welcome to Bass You Live. We are back. I am your host for the evening, Justin Kimmel, aka Professional Fish Head for the Bass University, and I'm joined in my own house, my new house, by Riz, aka Rich sometimes. But man, we have got just an awesome show for you guys. We're missing our fearless leader tonight, both of them. But you get us, and you get a great conversation coming your way, especially by Ott DeFoe. Yet again, a champ. I don't even know how many he's won, 2, 3, 4 this year. He just keeps on winning, and I'm so excited because we finally were able to line up and just get our schedules together and have him on the show. So I'm really looking forward to that, man. He won by doing something that I would have bet 10 other things would have won at the Harris Chain at that Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour event. But yeah, man, I'm with Riz. Riz, you've been on the road a while, man.
Yeah, that's right, JK. I actually packed up and hauled out straight after the BFL on the Chesapeake, hit the road.
Top 5 finish, 4th place. Congratulations.
Hit the road for Alabama. Had an awesome week of seminars down there with our guys. What a great panel we had for us both days down there in Alabama. To the likes of Lee Livesey, Jeff Gustafson, Greg Hackney, Drew Benton, Brian New, and Clint Davis. I mean, I'm telling you, the content that we got out of these guys, it was incredible. And I cannot wait until we put it out there for you guys on Bass U TV. It's going to be good stuff.
Yeah, man. And we got to do a little fishing, Brian. We got to do a little fishing. And I have to say, I cannot stand, nothing I hate more. You guys know this. Nothing I hate more than leaving them biting. And that's exactly what we had to do when we had to leave. I think we caught them on our last cast.
Sure did.
I think you pulled up a school of like 10 at the same time. But anyways, we'll get to that. We're joined by our very own BTC. BTC, what's going on, man?
What's up? How you guys doing out there in Justin's new house? How many new houses is this, Justin? One every other year you switch houses?
Right now we're on like a 1 every 3 year pace. My wife she gets in the mood for a new project, and I just tell her, okay, tell me where to go next.
That's pretty
rad.
rad.
Riz stayed at my house this weekend since we kept him down in Georgia for a few days. He has slept, I think you've been in my house more nights than I have, actually.
Quite possibly.
Because I was we moved, and then I traveled for the seminars and a tournament, and then when we came back here, I went straight on Memorial Day vacation with my family, and no fishing. And
Rich christened the house for you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Oh boy.
But who else do we got in there, BTC? It looks like GDP is back with us. Greg.
What's up, boys? Long time no see.
I know we've missed you, man. Been watching you out there. After let's see, the last one was kind of tough on everybody, wasn't it?
On the Guntersville one?
Yeah, Guntersville.
Yeah, it wasn't the traditional Guntersville. Every year we go back, it seems like, honestly, it's going down a little bit, as far as the fishing goes. It's getting tougher and tougher. A lot of pressure.
Wow, yeah. That pressure, I think that COVID pressure is what everybody's talking about. We got all these new people fishing, and, and half of them don't know what bait to throw, and, it's just.
Yeah, we've had, a lot of COVID pressure for sure. But, this year down in that general area, the weather has just been absolutely crazy down there. Flooding, cold weather, snow, not that long ago down there in Guntersville. It's just been a crazy, crazy year. And besides that, I think all three of us have beards besides BTC. Can you not grow a beard, Brian?
Well, I could, but why would you want to hide this?
I would hide
You
it.
know,
I was trying to think of what to put on my story. Now I got it. I'm gonna write it here in a minute.
beards are for ugly guys.
Whatever.
Yeah, beardless leader.
Beardless.
Beardless.
What's that?
Beardless leader.
Beardless leader. Yeah, and no, I can't.
Oh man.
I could grow a bunch of stuff down here, but it doesn't connect. So
Remember when I was 14?
yeah.
All right, sorry, Justin. Go ahead.
No, you're good, man. There's no Pete tonight. We're really all the hosts tonight. So
All right.
we just
All right.
wait till we get the Ott on. I think what's Ott's going to join us in 20 or 30 BTC.
Yeah, around 7:30.
Cool. Well, we'll dive right into it. I know we want to get to. We've got some. Obviously, we've had a new sponsor for the last couple months, and they brought you guys an awesome new deal. I want Riz to tell us more about it.
Yeah, that's right. Empire Covers, guys. If you haven't checked them out, you really need to. I'm using the cover right now on my Bass Cat that hasn't moved in about 2 weeks right now. And that Empire cover, I'm sure, is keeping it in pristine condition. I mean, guys, boating season, it's finally here. And the elements, man, they'll leave your boat at worse for wear. Just go to empirecovers.com and you can get a cover that will protect your vehicle or boat from all the harshest conditions, whether you're trailering it or you're keeping it on the water. Empire Covers actually just dropped a new line, the American Eagle line of covers. Guys, these things are marine grade, waterproof fabric that'll protect your boat or vehicle from all the elements. And the best part is they're made 100% right here in the USA in Kentucky. Go
United
check out
States of Kentucky.
Yeah,
right.
and so guys, as usual, during the live show, we have some awesome stuff going on for our subscribers. We want to hear from you. Get your questions in when we get out on the show so that we can get that through and ask them and get them answered. And we're giving some stuff away tonight as well. We got a $100 TH Marine prize pack going out to a Bash University TV subscriber. And we also have a $50 Facebook like and share Flambeau pack going out to somebody on the Facebook airwaves. So like and share the feed if you're watching over there. But if you haven't signed up yet for Bash U TV, now's a great time. And it's the last day to take advantage of an awesome deal that we have where if you sign up, you save $30 on your annual subscription and you get a Bash University red, white, and BU exclusive Bash University hat. So guys, head over to Bash U TV, join the program. We want to help you catch more big bass.
Man, that's awesome. And guys, tonight's the last night. Make sure you check that out.
And yeah, that code for Empire Covers. Did you hit that, Rich? I don't know if you did or not.
I don't think I've mentioned the cover in there. Thanks, Brian. The cover code -U21, guys. Get over there, grab yourself a cover, protect your investment.
That's 15% off, and free shipping, guys. That's a lot of money on a pretty expensive item. I've got a couple holes in my cover right now. I might be in the market. So.
Holes in your britches.
Yeah. Moving it'll do a lot of rough stuff on your gear. But hey, what do we got? Do we need to take a commercial break, or can we pass it down for a little bit?
That's right. Right to Greg.
What do you got?
I do. I want to talk about Guntersville. I want to dive deep into what Greg was talking about.
Yeah. You just want me to roll with it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, roll with it.
Man,
Greg.
Go Bash U. Here's the unique thing that I'm going to tell the viewers. Riz and I went and filmed at Guntersville with some of the Elite Series pros right after the tournament was over. We filmed with Hack. He literally, I think he got third, and then the next day he was in our seminar classroom. And we got to go out there and experience kind of, it gets light at 5 a.m. Out at in Central Time at Guntersville. So we 2 hours in the morning probably before we started working, and then we got to do one evening, and then the next day Pete said, "Hey boys, take the camera guys fishing." So we got to have a little fun on Guntersville. But I noticed a change, so I'm really eager to get that perspective, Greg, on what was going on right before we encountered what we did, because I'm convinced it wasn't the same story for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. And just you saying that small nugget prior to the show starting, I actually knew exactly what you were talking about because, going into an event like we always do, if you're not fishing at home, where you just kind of know everything that goes on 24/7, when you're traveling state to state, lake to lake, you try to kind of, I don't want to say anticipate the bite, but you look at the time of year, you look at past history tournaments, how they were won, all that good stuff, YouTube. And, going into Guntersville, we were all kind of thinking like, man, we're going to hit this one perfect. And when I'm saying that means like, we're going to hit it perfect offshore. Like the fish are just going to get out there. They're not going to be, beat on yet. That's always the biggest problem with all them lakes down there. Anything on Tennessee River, they just get crushed. So once them fish get out there, so we kind of thought we were going to have the perfect week of the fish on the move, almost like the beginning of practice was going to be pointless because the fish were going to get out there. But for us, for the majority of the guys, I really don't know of many guys that got them offshore. So my travel partner, Garrett Paulette, he just loves graphing. I mean, that's his bread and butter. That's what he's really good at. And I told Garrett the first day of practice, I said, dude, you start seeing him out there really good, let me know I'm coming. And he never really saw him out there. So I kind of just stayed shallow. I fished the grass the entire time, which I love doing, don't get me wrong. But I knew we were probably going to be a day or two or a week off from it happening. So I'm kind of guessing, Justin, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, I knew that it had been primarily shallow, a lot of the flipping stuff going on, fry garters, I imagine were in play. I think I heard some guys saying that they saw fish on beds, caught fish on beds. And that when you're getting 1 to 2 bites an hour flipping that shallow grass and stuff, you kind of know it's starting to be that tail end. Yep. Fish are scattered. And, when we went out there, I tried to do that. I took Riz to one of my favorite holes, one that kind of, I think, played for one of the guys in the top 10. But, man, we went there and Riz missed like a 5-pounder on a frog, like first cast. Mm-hmm. And then followed it up, second cast with a caught like a 2.5, 3-pounder. And then there were some fish there, but it just seemed like they were, I don't know, they were thinning out, and so that was the first time we got to go out there. And the second time we were filming in a place down the lake, and a place where I feel like you'd get your first groups to start to group up, Yeah. And so I was like, well, we don't have much time. I think we had maybe 2 hours. I was like, let's dump it in here, right here by the house, and just go out there and see if we can't find anything. And I stumbled across a group and kind of fished a spot that they were there. They weren't biting. And then we started graphing, and on my side imaging, I started seeing the shadows that I was looking for, and I was like, man, these got to be it. And dude, it was, we hammered that school a few different sessions, and
3 days in a row.
It put out fish up to 5.5 pounds. And I mean, I don't know, 70, 80, 90 fish were caught out of that pool. While our little, I mean, we didn't get, I wish we would have had just like one full throttle day where we could have just leaned on it. It was so much fun. But the beautiful part about it is, those fish were just getting there because they were stupid.
Yep.
You were just throwing it in there and hooking them. And some of them weren't eating and some of them were like missing it. But you know how those bite windows are.
Yeah, I mean, if they were there during our practice in the tournament, trust me, they would have been found. These guys don't miss nothing. They truly don't.
It seemed like they just got there because they were very willing to bite.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. That's what we were all anticipating, but it just never happened for us. That's just been our year, pretty much,
What was your take on the grass and the like the stage that milfoil was looking at was like in, because like just seeing. So there's so much grass on that lake, obviously, and there's a combination. There's eelgrass, there's coontail, there's milfoil. But to me, like looking at that milfoil, it didn't quite look like it looked like it would be going away. That deal would be going away if it was something that was happening for like us on the Chesapeake. What was your take on like the stage of the grass and like how much that could have affected the fishing up shallow as opposed to deep. Did you notice anything about that? Or
Well, so, I started going there in 2019. So I've been there in 2019. I went there in 2020 twice, one for the Classic, one for the actual tournament in the fall, and then this time this year. So for me, I always heard of Guntersville in the past. I'm going back years now, always having gorgeous flowing milfoil. So in 2019, when we were there, there was hardly any milfoil at all. It was all eelgrass and some coontail mixed in. And then in 2020, we went. I couldn't really find milfoil at all. It was mostly all eelgrass. This year, when we went back, there was actually more milfoil than I personally have ever seen myself on Guntersville. But with the grass, man, it's so hard to say which is right and wrong because I kind of got on a little flipping deal in this one area of all milfoil. It was literally the best grass I've seen on the entire place the whole entire week. I mean, it was in 10 foot of water, standing like milfoil. There's some coontail mixed in, and I was, flipping a giant jig inside of there and just punching it through. It just never worked out in the tournament for me, but I still think the grass plays a big part on that place. You still have to find the right areas. For me, as soon as I got there the first day, my whole entire thing was I ran to the bank and I just looked and seen what was spawning, what's not spawning. Which on Guntersville, I think in beginning of June, man, I don't think the fish should be spawning down south that late, honestly. But there was definitely still a lot of fish spawning. I think one of the main deals that did go on in that tournament, a lot of guys are running bluegill beds. Which kind of pertains in a whole different world all by itself. That's just what the fish are doing at that certain time during that week. Besides that, like you're saying, Riz, the fish were working out kind of what I was looking for. I went to where I thought there was all spawning bays, and I just went from them and I worked out deeper water. That's what I did. That's what I focused on. The first day I caught 16 something doing that, a good bag for that tournament, and then day two I just never got any big bites, surprisingly.
right.
But the grass question, I don't know, Riz. I don't really know the place really, really good. But like I said, from 2019 till now, the grass got a lot better. And I did see a lot of the red-tipped milfoil in some of the areas, which I like a lot of.
We're seeing the red tip?
Yeah, I started seeing it, yep.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I saw a little bit of that but we didn't stay there long at the mouth of South Saudi.
Okay.
But yeah, the eelgrass is also negatively affecting a lot of areas.
Choking it out.
It's limiting your techniques.
It's the floating eelgrass. Oh, dude, it's horrible.
That's not the Guntersville I know. It's been about 4 years. I got mad 4 years ago. I went to a frogs only tournament. Tried not to practice in the area I thought we would just fish the tournament in, and I went back there and they sprayed everything, and everything was gone. And I'm like, all right, Guntersville. Screw you. I'm not coming back.
Wow.
But I grew up going there, Greg. Like I know Guntersville. It's probably one of the top 3 lakes that I know, top to bottom as far as just a lot of days. I probably have over 100 days on that lake, and I love it. But this eelgrass, man, it was a new deal. Me and Riz got on a group of them out deep, in another spot from where, not the mega school, but it was a big school of spots. And oh my gosh, the spots got bigger since I've been.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something I'm seeing too, for sure. Every year, getting bigger and bigger, and a lot more of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 2.5 to 3.5 pounders, and I'm seeing the depth range and everything. But there's eelgrass everywhere, and I caught one dragging a shaky head or whatever, a magnum shaky head. That's one of the things we were catching the largemouth on. And I caught one doing that, but it just wasn't efficient. I'm like, man. Most people would probably just run from this. I was like, Riz, we gotta go vertical. It's like just how you would up shallow, you're gonna go flipping, right? That's why flipping is the best thing with all that vegetation. I was like, we just got to go vertical and get through this, dude. We pulled out the drop shot rods, and I mean, my boy Rich here, we all know him as a power fishing fool, but he got a drop shot in his hands, and I mean, we were pretty level, dude. Yeah. He might have beat me at what I thought was my own game. And but we pummeled those big spots on one spot. And there was a mat, just a giant mat of eelgrass over 22 feet of water. And I go over there and I punched the drop shot, light line through the mat, going down 20 feet.
Wow.
And caught like a 3-pounder. So, I mean, efficiency, obviously rules the day, but that was what you had to do. And I imagine for guys wanting to fish any other way, it just had to drive them nuts,
Yeah, one really good tip with floating grass, if you're in an area that has that grass, but like, let's say for example, you are on like, I don't know, a good swim jig or a chatterbait bite, and you're throwing it out, you're reeling it in, and it's just getting all bojangled, getting stuck up. Dude, this is what you want to do. I learned this years ago on the flats, because every once in a while on the upper bay, we kind of run into the same scenario with eelgrass floating. Throw out your chatterbait, throw out your swim jig. You can still use it, but you have to whoop it. And just let it go down and just whoop it. It'll just come through clean as can be. And the fish really react to it big time.
Is that kind of like the zip?
It is. It's like a shallower version of that. Greg, I actually got a question on the board for you. I have two. So I'm going to hit you with one, and then I'm going to come back to you. But Joe on the message board, a Bass U TV subscriber, wants to know, do certain grasses tend to hold bigger fish? And, that not specifically for Guntersville, just, in general, have you found that certain grasses hold bigger ones?
Yeah, I can say this for sure. Depending where you're at, Joe, it seems like way down south, like Florida and stuff, the more you can have mixed vegetations together, the better. Besides that, once you get up north, I think milfoil is dominant. But I will tell you this, anytime grass growth comes up and it's fresh and it's brand new and it's full of oxygen, don't matter what kind of grass it is, I think the fish go right to it every single time, period. That's the main thing. For example, like on the upper bay on the flat, once the eelgrass usually kicks off, man, it's a great time to really focus on it, because I think the fish go right towards it, right to it, because it's so much more oxygen. Because when the eelgrass starts coming up, it actually starts to choke out that milfoil the fish were in. And it seems like the fish go from that milfoil right to the eelgrass every time. So I always think that the newest vegetation is the best.
Gotcha. And Andrew Williams, Greg, wants to know, how do you tackle a lake that has a lot of grass, but it's only a brim fishery? His lake doesn't have shad.
Well, that's good. I mean, honestly, to be completely honest, man, I flip a brim jig in the grass, especially this time of year, more than anything. It's actually a bite that I focus on a lot around here in South Jersey. I would just match the forage, man. Don't worry about shad. Flip a jig, turn your chatterbait into brim color or some kind of goldish color. I always just say match the hatch. I mean, we all say that. That's honestly the truth. That's all you really have to do.
Good deal.
That brim jig is juice.
Yeah, it's money.
BTC, are you wanting to go to a break here and then bring in Otter in a few minutes, or what's your feels?
Well, thanks for asking, Richard. Yeah, Ott's chewing down the last couple bites of food. I don't know,
I got another little story we can tell.
Give him a chance to digest. Maybe a couple more things. Anybody got more stuff?
Yeah, I got to tell you, GDP, this was a fun experience for Riz, but I felt like the story should be told. So we were out there on like our last hour and a half, I guess, and we had jumped in the boat with Gussie, and Riz did some social media work with him that morning, just extra stuff with Gussie. Thanks, Gussie. And then anyways, we had seen him and then kind of gone apart, and then right there towards the end, we got on that school. And Gussie was coming down, and he had apparently gone and caught some and was starting to, work on it. He didn't have a good finish either, Greg. I think he was down in the 70s, so he really wanted to spend some extra time out there and try to just figure out what was going on, or if he missed anything, or just, I think everybody's kind of on the same page as what was going on. You guys were really they weren't out there yet, and they were kind of in between. And but anyways, we've got everybody, including the cameraman, who's catching his first like 4 to 5 fish or whatever. And I mean, our rods are doubled up like every second, every other cast.
I love that.
And Riz is just, when Riz sets the hook, you know it. And you know it from about 600 yards away. Okay. I mean, the guy sends out a wake on the boat, right? Like, I love it. He just pounds it through there. But I holler at Gussie, and I was like, hey, get off my school, or whatever. And then just kind of just wave him on over. And he's starting to ease down, the brake lines and wherever we were, and it's just pummeling them. And I'm like, dude, you can join us. Come on, whatever, we're not fishing a tournament. Come on in. And finally, he gets a little bit closer, and like all three of us hook up. It's chaos. I think Riz had a spook over the side because there was some fish coming up, and if you threw a spook in them, you'd catch them. And
Wow.
I had a spook. He had a drop shot over the side. I think I hooked a 2 or 3 pounder, and it gets stuck in both of the lines hanging over. But Riz can't help me because he just hooked into one, and we're yelling at Gussie, and he goes, yeah, I'm coming. Well, the dude comes over, and he's fishing with his wife, Shelby, and she's got a spinning rod in her hand. And I mean, dude, we've been working this school, and they come in at a different angle or whatever. And I marked fish on that side too, but that wasn't like the juice cast for us. But she's coming in, landing her baits kind of where we were, but dragging off a different way. Dude, she popped like 2 4.5, 4 3/4 size fish with a spinning rod and a Nico rig. And I'm like, same worm. She switched to the same worm that we were catching them on. And she just like totally added a pound to the weight of the fish we were catching or more. And there for a moment, Gussie was like, man, the guy who's fishing for a living isn't catching anything. My wife's catching them, yada, yada, yada. And then he gets on the phone, is stroking a jig or whatever, and literally 3 feet, from the boat, a 5.5, 5 3/4 pounder just gets it, and it was complete mayhem. We were all still hooking up. I think the biggest one, Riz, you caught some good spots out of that school too, I think.
Yeah, there was some fun ones in there.
Yeah, one thing I learned about offshore fishing, when they're schooling on the offshore spot, it's a good spot.
Yeah, yeah, they're chasing up.
Yeah, it's loaded. I've seen that a handful of times.
I've never experienced it. Like, I've seen you guys like share water with your buddies, in the elite events, and 2 or 3 of you get on a place and milk a big school with hundreds of fish. But I mean, there was no slowing down. Like, you had Gussie, you had his wife, you had the 3 of us in my boat. Everybody getting bent over. It was.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that in a while, especially on Guntersville, and it was. I don't know. I'd say the biggest takeaway for me was getting off that bank and yet again building more confidence in trusting what I'm seeing on my graphs, on my helixes, because I'm a natural born bank angler, but I've learned a good bit offshore. But just being able to trust and say, hey, those are bass, and those look like ones that are going to bite.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I saw when I found this school, because I didn't see 100 fish.
Yep.
I saw about 2 groups of like 8 shadows.
Yep.
And man, by the time we left them, it was the bright sun was out, and I think Riz hooked into one at the end, like a 3 pounder, and it had like an 8 swimming with it.
Oh, man.
Like an 8 pounder, a 5 pounder.
Yeah, you found the winning spot.
Yeah, they were just all ganged up.
Yep.
I'm like, man, if we could have just stayed for a night derby or something, we would have had fun.
Man, you kind of brought up a good point. I think a lot of the BU subscribers probably can maybe agree with me. Like, when it comes to actually graphing around and looking for these fish we're talking about, you heard Justin say it too, trying to build confidence in what he's doing. Dude, that's really pretty much all of it. Like, not knowing what you're looking at is okay, because once you literally see a school of fish that are bass, dude, it kind of like pulls a light bulb. It's like, oh my, there they are. That's how they should look. Like Justin said, he might have saw 8 or 10 down there. And a lot of times you might even see 1 or 2, you turn around and fish it. And it's just because you had a bad shot or bad angle coming across. A lot of times there's piles of them sitting down there. You just can't see a lot of them. So if you're marking around and you hear us talk about shadows, a lot of times them shadows will literally be, here's kind of a good example. There's a light right here. You got a pen right here. If that shadow, you probably can't see this real good, but if that shadow is kind of connected to the bottom like that, it's probably more or less a stump or a tree. If you zoom in and you blow up the little square here, if there's a fish there, you'll actually see a little space in between that fish and the bottom, just to give you a good idea what kind of shadows we're trying to see. You're trying to see a shadow that's coming off of an object that's basically has a space in between it. And don't get me wrong, a lot of times you're graphing around, like on Guntersville, you'll see a lot of catfish out there too. And one good way to tell if they're catfish, man, put a crankbait on and burn that thing as fast as you can, And if your line comes back with slime on it, you came through a bunch of catfish. I mean, it happens all the time. But if you come through, you get no slime, you're probably going to get a bite. It's going to be a bass. But understanding the side imaging, understanding the shadows we're talking about, it just takes development. It takes time. Use YouTube. I use YouTube 24/7, when I was trying to learn all this stuff. It just simplifies everything. But it's definitely, if you live on a body of water where you can graph and get offshore, you kind of got to learn it, man, because there's going to come a time during the course of every year where you're not going to catch them because you're against the bank still. So, that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, that's a great 2 cents. And
Yeah, we got the guy who's coming on with us, JK. He did some hummingbird seminars for us over the years with side imaging, Mega 360, all that. Guys, if you just type in humming, or you just type in Ott DeFoe on the Bass U search bar, it'll come up, man. That guy, he knows how to use those electronics, and he also puts them to work too.
Ott truly has the best. And when I first got my helixes, I set them up exactly like he said to do in the seminars. And that was the best way for me to start. Now I've started to mess around and get really geeked into it, to change some color palettes on different lakes and shooting different depths and all that stuff. But man, he nailed it on if you're getting to start. But man, I think he's going to come on soon. Why don't we cut to our commercial break? BTC, are we good?
We're good. Let's hit this break.
Awesome.
Be right back.
Can't wait.
Why do you love catching fishing rods?
I'm truly losing less fish.
Is the sensitivity of the rod.
That they're made right here in North Carolina in the USA.
Strongest, lightest rod, 100% made here in Sanford, North Carolina.
From the drop shot rod to the flipping stick. Every rod has a purpose to it, and I rely on them all the time when I'm out there in a tournament.
Durability in the John Cruz Worming series, the counterbalancing in the handle.
It's the only rod I found that can withstand my hook set. Boom goes the dynamite.
We're different. Some would say obsessed. There's no place on earth we'd rather be than right here, right now. Performance-driven gear, so you can fish longer, harder. Gill's Performance Fishing.
2021 Red Crest champion Dustin Connell here, and if you watch live coverage, we just got done at Lake Eufaula. I caught my fish using the active target with Lowrance. What you didn't see is I run a Sea Clear power harness in my boat. One of the main advantages of running this harness is it does not drain my batteries down at all running my 4 units. And what that's going to allow me to do is I'm able to see my bait at 8 a.m. just as good late in the day. Y'all check them out at seaclearpower.com.
You take pride in your boat, so it deserves the best protection possible. Our durable woven fabric prevents ripping and provides UV protection, and our tape seams provide protection against the elements. The heavy-duty shock cord hem and strap and buckle system provide a tight and secure fit. Our top-of-the-line boat covers come with a ventilation system to keep your boat free from mold buildup. Empire Covers, protecting what you love.
Okay. And we're back.
Sorry, I didn't get that cue. I'm just as Pete, but we are back with the champ who is winning so much I can't even count them all. I'm just so happy that he is able to join us and get back with us. I know Ott, it's been a crazy year for you, blessed year, and you have just absolutely cracked them, and you did it again, man. Welcome and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it. I hate we weren't able to do it after Rayburn, but I was like, well, if I go ahead and win another one, maybe they'll have me in. So we're able to.
We appreciate your doing another one.
And that one outside of Texas again. We were beginning to think we're gonna save all your wins for Texas.
Yeah, that was kind of the way I was thinking. So it definitely was good to win somewhere else. And honestly, to be honest, I mean, of all places, Florida for me. It's been good to me some in recent years, but last year our event, the one event we had there, was my worst finish of the year. So it was really cool to get a win in the state of Florida. Florida's a unique place and can be very fickle. So to come out there with a win was something that'll always be special.
Yeah, well, to hear that, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. If we go in there, I'm going to get you to dive into the details and do what we do. But, you know, when I think of a shad spawn and Ott DeFoe, I'm pretty sure you're going to finish pretty darn well in an event where that's going on. It just seems like, I mean, we've got the bait spawn seminar by Ott DeFoe on Bash UTV for a reason, because I've seen so many high finishes, including, I think it was Okeechobee, who were way high up on a Florida shad spawn, and have seen it all over the place, but no surprise to me, except for how you caught them.
Yeah.
But, man, I want you to go in detail here real quick. You're one of our guys. You've been a Bash U instructor for a long time, and I've got a great panel with me and Riz and BTC and Greg DePalma here, and we're going to ask you some questions, and so are the guys on our chat board. But I feel comfortable enough doing this with you because you're one of our guys. Give us the Bash U rundown. You know what we want. You know, how you approach the tournament. You know, if it's something in practice, and we'll interject our questions in. But man, give me the goods. Good goods.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was I love a bait fish spawn, and I'm calling this. I called it a shad spawn at the time. I truly don't know if they were shad, but they acted a lot like shad. They were really, really small. Was a big thing with it. That's why I'm kind of tore as to whether or not they were actually shad or some other type of minnow or something. But going into the event, I truly expected that to be over with. You know, I mean, that the tournament you mentioned on Okeechobee, that was in March a few years ago, and that was a shad spawn. So I'm like, man, this is May. We're probably gonna be past that. I expected there to be a bluegill spawn, you know, probably going on, but I really thought we'd be past a shad spawn. That was just my thinking going in, and get there. And the very first day of practice, something we dealt with are 2 days of practice, and the first 2 days of competitions, a day of Group A and a day of Group B, was heavy wind out of the east. It blew like in the morning, it'd be blowing 10, 12 miles an hour. By 9 o'clock, it would crank up to like 15 to 20. Man, by noon, it was a sustained 20 plus, gusting to 30 or 40. So we dealt with heavy wind throughout our 2 days of practice. First 2 days of the tournament, it really limited how much of the lake you could fish. There was so very little you could fish. But the area that had some wind blowing across it, first day of practice, very first place I stopped, I'm riding over through there, and the telltale sign, there's several birds, you know, bait fish eating birds, but right up on the shoreline on this windy point. When you're a windy point and it's, you know, springtime, water was in the mid 70s, 76, 78 degrees, something like that. You got water temperature, you got wind, you got birds sitting on a point. That means there's bait fish there. I mean, that is as simple as it gets in bass fishing. Don't overlook that. Don't think too much into that. When you've got those ingredients and you've got birds sitting there, that's the best way to look for them first thing in the morning. So pull over there pretty quick on a white swim jig, catch a nice fish. Saw a couple fish feed up in the Kissimmee grass and stuff, and just start fishing. I mean, I just on the trolling motor and I'm just fishing. And I'm throwing at Kissimmee grass, I'm throwing at lily pads, I'm throwing at cypress trees. The next bite I get is actually off of a cypress tree. Another nice, like 2.5 pounder, good scoreable fish. Work on around and go again, fish a little bit of everything. I'm just fishing whenever I come to. I come to a boat dock, and I picked up Slim, my crankbait, on the outside of that boat dock because there wasn't any grass. There's actually a place I couldn't throw it. And as odd as that may sound, that's something that I've done some in Florida for years and years. A guy had showed me that. Glenn Brown is actually who it was 10 years ago. Glenn's passed away just the last couple of years from cancer, but an excellent angler down there, especially in the state of Florida. A guy that I called a friend for a long time. But he'd showed me that 10 plus years ago. He's like, man, these fish on these lakes, they love a crankbait around boat docks. He's like, not a lot of people throw it. It's not what they think about, but they absolutely eat it. So that was in my mind before this event ever got there. That very first dock, I caught 2 not scoreable fish off that first dock on a crankbait. It was a bigger dock, stuck out a little ways, but now I've caught fish out of Kissimmee grass, I've caught one off the cypress tree, I've caught one off docks, or 2 off docks. And so I just fished you know, and kind of whatever I came to, and I would catch fish on a little bit of everything, and I'd change it up some. I caught some cranking, caught some on swim jig, you know, just did a little bit of everything. And that first day, really both days of practice, but that first day I launched in Harris. I had to go through the Dead River. I fished in it a little bit. I fished just a little bit in Eustis or Useless Lake. I went into the Dora Canal. I fished in it some. I went into Lake Dora. I fished in it very little. Drove through Beauclair. Went all the way down the Apopka Canal to the back end of it, and had to make that journey back. So I mean, I covered a lot of ground. Not necessarily out fishing, but I just wanted to see a lot of it. And
this is through the first tournament day. It was almost.
This is all first day of practice.
Oh, first day of practice. Wow, that's a lot of ground.
But yeah, that was all first day of practice. And to come back at the end of the day and spend another couple of hours in Harris and catch some more. I probably end up catching, I'm gonna say 8 good scoreable fish in Harris, with 4 or 5 of them coming in an hour. That right at the first thing. I caught those, and I kind of just went looking a bit after that. I wasn't like, I'm going to try to run this pattern everywhere. I just went looking after that. Then the next day I was tore. I was like, I had a good enough day on Harris. Like, man, I should probably just go back and try to build on it. But I never went and looked at Griffin on that first day. So I'm like, Griffin, I mean, historically is one of the best ones in the chain. I'm like, I have to go look at it. And I had a good enough day there that it rivaled my day, or it was actually better than my day on Harris. I caught some fish on some docks, and then I went into one of those marshes and caught them really, really good, to be honest. I mean, I thought I was going to really catch them in there on a Terminator swim jig. Caught like a 5, a 4, lost another big one, caught another 4 later, caught multiple 2.5 pounders that would have fish with them, chasing it in.
Mm-hmm. Is this that new swim jig?
Mm-hmm.
That thing's got a gaff hook in it, doesn't it?
Big gaff, yeah. Yeah, it really does. Yeah, it sure does. And so I was tore at that point. I was like, man, I caught fish in Harris, but it was I never found a group of them in Harris. It was just fishing. I didn't find that stretch that I ended up fishing in the tournament. I'd catch a fish here and I'd catch a fish there, but it was never like, I'm going to catch them in this next 50 yards. I was just fishing. And that was why I ended up going to Griffin on the first day, was because I thought that was going to be, you know, I thought the area I had there was actually stronger. And I'm thankful that it wasn't, because it led me to winning. But man, I fished over there. I fished the whole day. So it's a long run. You got to walk, you got to do all that stuff. And then I was fishing in a marsh that's electric motor only, you got to be less than 40 horsepower. So obviously, or nobody has less than 40 horsepower out here on tournament trail. So it was electric motor only. I'm like a 15-minute troll to get where I'm going.
Wow.
So I'm committed. I'm like, if I go here, I'm just going to stay the whole day. And that's what I did. I fished. I literally fished. It took me I lost about an hour on the front end of the fishing day. I fished for 6.5 hours, making 3 to 5 casts a minute. And all I caught was 6 scoreable bass for 12 pounds. I'm like, I'm not going back.
that had you kind of around the cut line, right?
I wasn't terribly. I was like 3.5 pounds off of it. I was below it. I was in 28. Right. So I wasn't dead last by any means. But yeah, I mean, one fish and I'm in it. And I'll be honest, I'm glad. I'm glad that I didn't catch 20 pounds or 22 pounds. I'd have went back in a heartbeat.
Right.
I mean, I'm in the cut. It's a decent day. I catch them a little bit again. I'm gonna make the cut. You know what I mean? But I'm glad that I did so bad. You know, that was all part of the plan, apparently. But yeah, that's why I was really thankful that was such a bad day.
Yeah, and you had fished. Now you're fishing your last practice day and your first tournament day in Griffin. You hadn't seen Harris or wherever you caught him in 3 days, maybe 4 after, because of the day off. Wow. Yeah.
So practice day, an off day, a tournament day, an off day. So I'm going back 4 days since I've been. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even consider that part of it.
It can change this time of year, man.
Lot changes. It absolutely does. And that was, I was excited. I was like, I knew I wasn't going back to Griffin. I knew I was going to fish Harris. I had enough confidence there. And so I'm like, I'm going to go back to Harris, but I realized it had been a few days. So I'm like, I'm not going to just run to where I had a bite. I'm just going to, I've got 30 minutes. We get 30 minutes from takeoff until line's in. I'm going to use this time to side image. I'm going to run. I'm going to look for birds. I'm just going to treat today like a practice day. I'm just going to, when I see something looks good, that's where I'll start at. And I rode some and I side imaged. I marked some brush piles. I found some offshore hydrilla, put some waypoints on some of that stuff. And I rode by the shoreline. I saw where some birds were and different stuff. And I'm running down through there, and there's like this one dock that's got a bunch of birds on it. And they're like down on the cross beams, picking bait out of the water and stuff. Some up on the shoreline behind them. There's like 8 or 10 birds all around this one dock. And that'd be a bird here and a bird there, but there was like 8 or 10 around this dock. I'm like, that looks interesting. So I ride on down, and there's some more pretty stuff. And it's like 5 minutes till line's in. I'm like, well, that looks as good as anywhere. I roll back over there, and it's Kissimmee grass, and it leads up to this dock, and then it kind of opens up like beyond this to the left on this shoreline, I'm going to say. And I put my talons down, and I've got like 3 minutes before line's in. I'm kind of checking my stuff, and a fish blows up over here, and it's the Kissimmee grass. Mm-hmm. Dang, that's cool. One over here, goosh. Oh my God. And over there at the boat dock, boosh. I'm gonna be around some. Looks like, So this looks pretty good. And it gets to time for lines in. I've got a swim jig in my hand. And he counts me down, lines in.
Turn the hydrowave on just yet.
Yeah, I didn't even have to click it on yet. And he counts me down, lines in. And this one fish on this point right in front of him blew up 4 or 5 times in the last 2 or 3 minutes. Dude, I throw in there. I move my bait 6 inches. Don't. And the fish hits, and I jerk miss it. But I had a bite on my very first cast. Well, that dock, I ease up there to it, and I swim jig this little point, nothing other than missing that one. Well, the side of this dock, I can throw right down the side of it with a crankbait, like it's open. It's got just a little lane.
Yeah, I saw. Is this the magic dock that you kind of onto? Yeah, I saw you opening there.
Yeah. So there was a little lane down the side of it. I throw slim down through there, catch like a 2.7. We're 2 minutes, 3 minutes into the day or whatever. Right. Yes. I'm like, I'm not quite up to the cuts yet. Next cast or 2 casts later, catch a 2.4. I'm like, okay, I should be in the cut now, And then a couple casts later, and the fish has blown up back over here a couple times. I'll throw over there. I think that was the next one I caught, was like a 3.13. I'm like, dang, I am rolling. We're 8 minutes.
This is all on crankbait.
Yes, all 3 of those were on OG Slim. Yeah.
OG Slim.
Yeah, and so I'm 8 minutes into the day, and I've caught 4, and I've caught 8 pounds or something. Well, that dock, they had fed around it a little bit. Well, what was funny, and this is something that for the people watching to really pay attention to, the water was extremely off-colored there. I don't know if it's an algae bloom, if it was from the wind, all of the above. They've sprayed a lot of grass there. I don't know, but the water was extremely off-colored. And I knew that there was a shad spawn or whatever this bait were that was spawning going on. And I'm seeing them flipping. Seeing them up around a little bit and seeing plenty of fish feed already. But it actually ended up an hour into the day, there were more bait active an hour into the day than there was in that 30 minutes before lines in. I'm there. It's like we took off of that event. You didn't really have to have your lights in, but we took off a few minutes before sunrise. So it's not bright daylight yet. Well, an hour into the day, once the sun is clearly up, the bait was the most active. And that had to be a product of that off-colored water. And I've seen that before. I've seen it when the water is especially cool, but you've got a shad spawn. Right. And I've seen it when the water is especially dirty and you've got a shad spawn, that it actually picks up into the morning a little bit before it dies off. So, so many people hear about it. They're like, bait fish on it, shad's gone first 30 minutes a day, it's over with. Well, not in every situation. Sometimes it does end really quick, but not in every situation. But yeah, that dock basically where I started, between the OG Slim, between a swim jig, between that prototype swim jig, between all those baits there, end up catching between 30 and 40 pounds off of that one dock. Wow. And this ain't a marina. I mean, this is like a guy's personal dock. Down one side of it has 5 poles, and I caught fish off of every pole.
Oh my gosh!
Wow, that's pretty.
Yeah,
that's a pretty special dock, I would say.
It was that day. The next day, it was not. I don't know that I scored one off of it the rest of the tournament, but that day there, those fish were absolutely loaded on. And it was about day 2 of the tournament, my first day on Harris.
Your first day on Harris, and so okay,
yeah,
so you went into a knockout round.
Yeah,
after that, and it was not on.
No, which I was Group B, so I fished the next day for knockout round, and then championship round was the very next day, and they never showed up there again like that.
So hey, it's Greg DePalma. How you doing, buddy? So do you think it was wind driven? What do you think caused it?
I do think wind had a lot to do with it, Greg. I think so. This was in an area, and part of the reason why I decided to go to that side of the lake was because when we'd had all that wind in practice in the first couple of days of the tournament, really this was the second day it had been calm. Okay, so Group A's second day it calmed down. So this was the very next day it was calm, 2 days of flat water. But all that wind we'd had was like an east-northeast wind. It had a lot of east in it. Well, this was on kind of the south shoreline, so it's catching some of that north, but it was also, a lot of it had a little hook to it that caught had a little bit of a westerly hook to it, so it caught a lot of that east wind as well. My thought process of going there was nobody fished this in practice. Nobody fished it the first 2 days of the tournament because it would have been pounded so bad by that wind. Even if you'd have fished it, you couldn't have fished it effectively. So I most definitely think the wind had something to do with it. It had laid down at this point, but maybe it had, it had some residual current or something working through that area.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, I know we got a lot of questions, and I want to let the guys get theirs in with Ott before we kind of move on. But Riz, you got anything?
Yeah, so I'm going to go to a question from Team No Fish here on the board, and he wants to know, Ott, what is it about those OG Slim crankbaits that make them an effective tool all year long? A lot of people think of a flat-sided crankbait to be something that goes away when the water starts to warm up and you get past that pre-spawn period. Why is that OG Slim so effective? And Team No Fish, you won yourself a Gills Gear gift card for that question.
Nice, great question.
Yeah, that is a great question, and I'll be honest in saying this. I have been very guilty myself of putting up my flat-sided baits once that water hits 60, 65 degrees. I've done that a lot. There'll be situations, especially on rivers. We fish a river system. I put them back in the boat, but I had put them in the boat for this event because I thought that it would be in the right depth range as much as anything. The maxes out that slim will run about 6 feet or so. So that was kind of why I had put them in the boat for this event. But it's just a natural action. It's got enough action for warm water. It's got, toned down enough action that works in cool water. I think it's really a pretty good mix. And then the fact that it is a 6 foot diamond bait, you can fish it in 2 foot, which I did hear some, and you can fish it out to 5 or 6, so it really does make it pretty versatile. But it's the thing to me, a couple of big factors is that it doesn't have rattles. I'm such a fan of a quiet bait all the time. That's one reason I love balsa. I just like that material above anything else for a bait. And I think that helps a lot. But the fact that it doesn't have rattles, that was something that I wanted in it, to be a quiet bait. Because on a place, man, we all know anywhere we fish anymore are more pressured than they've ever been. Call it the coronavirus effect. But more people fish, and my thought process with baits in general has definitely shifted in the last few years. You can take a really good natural bait and you're going to catch the smart fish that are harder to catch. Plus, you're still going to catch the dumb ones that are pretty easy. Or if you take a really loud, obnoxious bait, you're only going to catch the dumb ones. So use something that's more natural to catch the smart ones and the dumb ones. That's kind of my thought process, is that you know, use something that's more realistic, even in situations where you think you need something with, you know, that is more aggressive or something. But that's kind of my thought process there.
It's kind of like that old saying about the two bulls, the young bull and the old bull that stood up on the hill.
That is exactly right.
Yeah, and the old bull said, "We'll walk down and get them all," or something like that.
Yeah. The young bull said, "I'm gonna run down there and get me one." The old bull said, "No, we'll walk and get them all."
No.
So wait a minute. Let me go back to this. I mean, I love the point you made, and it's a great point. But you're telling me Ott DeFoe doesn't use any baits with rattles? Like, are you applying the top water and everything else too, or are we just talking crankbaits?
No, mostly crankbaits. I do. I absolutely use top waters. It's got some loud, obnoxious rattles in them at times. I have some of my favorite ones are quiet. You know, some old ones that I've got that are totally silent baits. But I've caught a lot of fish on a loud, rattling bait as well. But especially with the crankbait, I mean, I definitely feel like it, especially with the crankbait, is that it, you know, natural is always going to be better. Now, like at Rayburn, I mean, just for instance, at Rayburn, I caught a lot of fish there on a square bill, a prototype OG that's going to be coming out in a couple of years. And I'm fishing. Listen, I'm fishing a place where there are hundreds, if not thousands, of bass. Like in a place the size of the front deck of my boat, I'm catching a fish every throw, and I can catch them on a square bill. I can catch them on a bladed jig. I catch some on a spinner bait. I catch some on a wacky worm. I catch them on a lot of different things. I threw slim there. They did not bite it.
Wow.
Go figure. I don't understand, but I could throw a square bill in there and catch one, or DT4 and catch one almost every throw. Go figure. I don't know what to tell you. But,
do you think that has to do with like mood of the fish?
It must. It absolutely must.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was. I mean, I had slim tight on in practice for this event in Florida. It was the first shallow crankbait I threw, and by the first stock that I threw it by, I caught two. So my confidence in it was all. I mean, it's good, but it instantly went way up. You know. So I mean, it was what I had tied on. I threw it. Okay, I'll throw slim. You know, it was one of those deals where I didn't try a lot of other stuff beyond that.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that was a great question by Team No Fish. I'm fairly good at guessing what major techniques are gonna, you know, win. You know, I would have had Bobby Lane's pegged as a top 2 or 3 technique.
Yeah.
He even released his selecting action on your worms class the week of the tournament, because I felt like he was going to have a great tournament and it was going to be, you know, but I would have never said that side crankbait was going to go everything. Never.
Yeah. I have to agree. I would not have thought that would have been.
But you had it tied on.
I had it tied on, and I can't completely say that. I'll tell you why I had it tied on. I tied it on because I thought I would crank that offshore hydrilla with it. That's what I had it tied it on for, because that circuit board lip on that bait is so thin, it cuts that stuff better than a lot of plastic lips do. That was why I had it tied on, to be quite honest.
Wow.
How are you fishing that kind of bait when you're throwing it over grass offshore crankbait? Like when you start to feel it like get hung up, like, I mean, I've seen guys do it different ways, like fishing with Mike, like when he gets hung up in grass, he like has like this amazing, crazy, violent snap where he goes, you're like, do you just kind of pull it and feather it through, or do you have to like snap it out really hard? How do you fish that?
Well, keep in mind, nothing I do is as exaggerated as what Mike Iaconelli does. Step number 1. But no, I rip it out aggressively. I absolutely do. Yeah, when I feel it starting getting into it and I feel the bait foul, I mean, I absolutely snap the rod. I mean, that's the way I fished is I don't try to just pull it a little and shake it free. I mean, I snap it very aggressively to try to get that bait to clear off.
When you're fishing that way, do you have to adjust your line size, type, and also hooks? Do you have to change your hooks when you're doing it in addition to your line size?
I run the same, pretty much the same setup all the time. I run the same. If I can fish 14 on it, that's what I'm going to fish. On slim, that's what I throw most of the time. But if I'm noticing that I'm like just constantly in that grass, I will upsize that line to shallow the bait up some. If this is the bait, this is what they're wanting, I'll step up to 17 to try to lose a foot of depth, or just make it a conscious effort to not cast as far. I mean, that's with a crankbait. That's something I think a lot of us overlook. We always want to bomb it out there just as far as we possibly can. If you know that your bait's diving too deep, just make a conscious effort to not cast quite as far if you don't have to. If the fish are not boat shy, just don't cast it quite as far. Keep your rod tip up, and you'll be able to fish that bait shallower. Hooks, I always run the same hooks. Those hooks that come on OGs, those are the hooks that I use on them. That's such a great thing that I wanted to do with that line of baits. With all the baits we'll have in that OG line is the hooks that come on there are the ones that I use. So I can take an OG slim out of the pack, put it in my box, it's ready to tie on. That's a great part with those is those short shank number 3 VMCs that are on there. That's as good as you'll put on, in my opinion.
Yeah. We want to throw another subscriber question in there, Riz?
Yeah, absolutely. The next question I'm going to go with is from Coach Prince. He's going to win himself a Gills Gear gift card for this question. And he wants you to talk a little bit about, or if you can, a new bladed swim jig that you might have from the markets. And also, what was your trailer that you were using on the prototype bladed swim jig?
Yeah. A couple of the easy questions there on that. I used a 3/8 and a 1/2 ounce both. I started with the 3/8 to start with. To be quite honest, they're homemade. I've made the ones I was fishing with. I've fabricated them up myself in the garage. I didn't have very many of them. I didn't plan on using that in this event. I didn't think it'd be that big of a deal. I'm running pretty low on them. They're a pain in the butt to make. I've not made it in a few years. And so I was fishing with a 3/8 because I was fishing like a foot deep, 1.5 feet deep with it. But towards the end of the week, I got to running low on 3/8, so I switched to 1/2. They bit it just the same, rigged up the way that I had it, and it was all bait fish colors, shad colors. I caught some on a straight white. I caught some on a glimmer blue. Caught one on like a blue shad. One I had a little bit of green and some chartreuse. The exact color didn't really matter too much as long as it was bait fish. But I was fishing a Bass Pro 3-inch speed shad trailer on the back of it, just that little small swim bait. Because it's a compact deal. It imitates small bait fish extremely well. That's what makes that little bait really, really effective. If they're targeting bigger bait fish, you'll catch fish on it. But when they're targeting those little small bait fish like they were there, I mean, a lot of that stuff they were eating was 1.5 inches long. It imitates that stuff really, really well. And that's what I was doing with it. But yeah, it does have blades. I would call it a swim jig. But that's about as much as I really want to say about it, other than it's one that I fabricated up. And I have been working on it with Terminator for about a year now to try to get it right. And we've still just struck out to this point. I was talking with Dan Quinn with Rapala on the way down here today, and I said, what's funny is I look at that bait, and Slim probably accounted for about 40% of my fish throughout the week, and that swim jig probably accounted for 50%. I caught a few on a top water. I caught a few on just a regular pros jig, swim jig, swimming it some. I caught some on the Terminator, the heavy duty swim jig, but that other little bait accounted for more than Slim, but there was a few other fish that factored in there too. So, but I've been working on it. That's what I was telling Dan. I was like, here's the bait that won the tournament But the way it looks right now, it looks like I made it in the garage. It would never hang on the shelf at Bass Pro Shops looking like what it looks like right now. But it won the tournament. I mean, the fish didn't care, but it's not really ready for packaging just yet.
Well, I got a couple follow-up questions. Let's move on to from the fact that you had a bait that probably nobody else in the field had. So that was probably cool. Just, whether it was a different action or just, whatever. We can't wait to see what that bait does special in a couple of years or whenever it's going to come to us. But man,
when we seeing it? You got one in your pocket there, Ott?
I don't have one on me. I don't.
Come on, man.
That's 2023 BTC.
Empty your pockets right now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Ott, man, you mentioned, let's get to the stuff we can all take the lessons from here, besides waiting 2 years for a bait. You mentioned small bait. Okay. This is one of my follow-up questions with this. Did you have to trim it up to trim your skirt up tight, or did you do anything special modification wise besides the small trailer to really make these fish? I mean, you said a bait, then you said color really didn't matter. Did you do anything to kind of just match the hatch, if you will, with that small?
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely did. Yeah. The overall profile of that thing, I mean, with the trailer and all, I'm 3 1/4. I was using that whole speed shad on it, but it's only 3 inches. And then you've got the skirt and the head. I had the skirt trimmed just to the hook, the bend of the hook, that type of stuff. But here's what's funny with that is that, I'm throwing a bait fish colored, imitating these bait fish swim jig. Looks very much like them, in my opinion. A lot of size, everything about it. But then I'm also throwing slim in a lot of the same areas, catching fish that are feeding on these same little bitty tiny bait. Slim's not little. I mean, it's a pretty good sized bait. It's and I was throwing it in chartreuse colors, like a new color brim, hot copper shad. I did throw copper green shad on the last day. Felt like the water had cleaned just a little bit. But I'm throwing a chartreuse crankbait where I'm catching fish on a white swim jig. The thing with bass, which you always got to keep in mind, and then I'll reference this to something I did back in the fall. Bass are opportunistic feeders. They're not just feeding on these bait fish and saying, if a bluegill swims by, I'm not going to eat him because I'm targeting bait fish right now. Or if a crawdad swims out of a hole, he's going to say, oh, I don't want to eat that crawdad. I'm only targeting bait fish right now. That's not what they do. There was this past fall in Douglas, I saw this blatantly obvious. Parker and I were up there fishing, and we're fishing these mud flats, super, super shallow water, mud flats. Water's extremely dirty. But these bass are targeting the same kind of deal. I mean, bait that are like 1.5 inches, 2 inches long shad. And we tried that swim jig. We tried little crankbaits. We tried a lot of stuff, and you'd catch a fish now and again. You don't know what our best bait was, most effective fishing for fish that we can see that are visibly feeding on shad was a black and blue bladed jig. That didn't look like anything we could see them feeding on, but there were crawdads in there too, I'm sure. And the best thing we could imitate that we could get bit on was a black and blue bladed jig. It was not, a chatterbait, not a swim jig deal. It was so I mean, we're watching fish blow up on bait fish, throwing a black and blue chatterbait in there and catching them.
Wow.
That they're opportunistic feeders. That was just the most effective tool for the job. The way this mud was sealed and everything else, you throw a crankbait in there, and instantly you got leaves on the hooks. It's not effective.
Yeah,
you could throw that bladed jig in there, and it was effective, even though it didn't imitate what they were feeding on.
Yeah, well, and getting back to that, man, I love getting into these details, but. Because I truly believe they matter when you tell me it's accounting to 50 to 60% of your fish in the tournament. I mean, a 3-inch speed shad, guys, is like, don't think 3.8 Kitech, think 2.8 Kitech. I mean, it is a tiny, tiny profile. And just to get a hook in it and out of it and leave enough tail for the right action and stuff, I got to ask you, are you a guy, because I know guys go back and forth with it. Do you rig yours like right side up or upside down on a chatterbait or a vibrator?
Right side. Yeah, right side up. Yeah, so the tail hangs to the bottom. you know, the right side up. Yeah. That's the way I always rig mine. Yeah, I've seen guys rig it the other way, and I have no idea why. You know, I mean, even the color, like I was throwing like a pro blue color, so it's got a blue back, white belly. It's like at that time I'd have a white back and a blue belly. That just would confuse me crazy.
Yeah, I think the school of thought, I guess, would be one might give you more lift when the other one might keep it more down. Maybe with especially with the bigger size ones, I guess, is what I've heard guys debate on, but it's just a debate. They're all catching the same fish. So, GDP, I want to swing it over to you if you got anything for Ott right now.
Yeah, I do actually. You know, Ott, this is your second win this year, right?
That's right, yeah.
So do you think your decision-making in this tournament where you just said you just won it because, you know, you saw no guys there in practice, is that what's making you think, you know, winning more? Is that what's changing, you think, or what?
I definitely do. Yeah, I definitely do, Greg. I think it's just, you know, confidence in your decisions like that. We're at Chickamauga getting ready for our next event here. And, you know, I had that day on Griffin when I had loaded up, Tommy Biffle was there. And he, you know, had I think he was an ounce ahead of me. And he just made the comment there when we loaded up. He said, man, I've got a decision, you know, man, I got a tough decision to make before we come back out here in a couple of days. I'm like, I ain't coming back to this place. I mean, it was, you know, I mean, it was an easy, now I had a day of practice on Harris. I had other places to go. So it wasn't like I was going blind, but yeah, the decision making. And then like that day on Harris, just to say, hey, I'm not going to run. I had a bite over here. I'm not going to run straight to this place to try to recapture what happened 4 days ago. I know how I want to fish here. I'm just going to go look for somewhere that fits that bill.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I do too. So sounds like winners rest their laurels on winning fish and keep searching until they find them.
Yeah,
that's the whole deal. That really is right there. That was, I knew, and that's why I'm glad I didn't have a decent day on Griffin, because I would have hoped for a decent tournament at that point. That's in our format, especially having those resets where you just got to make the cut and it gets back to zero. You just got to make the cut and it gets back to zero. Then you get to the final day. That's the day you got to win. But that translates into a 5-fish tournament too. You know, you could make a big comeback, but that's the great thing with ours is that first day, I mean, whatever. I'd love to have had a great start and had, you know I was going to automatically make the championship or whatever. But I was just as well off as Brett Hite. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really was. You know, who caught 80-some pounds his first day. I was, in a lot of ways, I was just as well off. I was more dangerous because I was still on the look. I was still trying to find them, and that's, you know, that's in our events, and I think that's why I've kind of learned that in the last couple of years. I call it fishing offensively or defensively in ours. Man, if you're fishing defensively, even if you're in the lead on the final day, but you start fishing defensively to where you're like, man, if I can catch 4 more this period, I think I can hang on and win. You're going to get beat. That's just the way it is. Because the guy that's down there in 5th, 6th, 7th place, he's looking. He's out looking. And you let these guys look enough, that's bad news for somebody who's just trying to catch a couple more and hang on to it.
Yep.
It's almost a free feeling when you have like a really bad, I mean,
it was
not a great feeling, but like you kind of fish free when you have a really bad first day. And it's like, well, I can't do any worse than I did yesterday. It's only going to go up, and it can snowball. And once you get rolling, things start to happen. You start making those decisions and you start feeling good about what you're doing. And what I want to know, Ott, is, so, you know, we heard about your day where you were on the Magic Dock, and you alluded that when you going into that next day, that dock, it wasn't really going on for you. What did you have to do? Like, what was your adjustment? You know, you went to that dock and they weren't firing. Something had changed.
Yeah.
What did you do to keep things going, get the momentum going back again, get a couple fish in the boat, and then you're rolling to win the tournament? Yeah,
absolutely. On the second day when I caught them so good off that dock, there was like a 200-yard stretch that, I mean, I went up and down through there, and I'd catch fish at this dock. I'd catch fish at this corner of this seawall. blah, 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 all the way down through there. So it wasn't like that dock was the only place I got bit. I had 60 some pounds a day, but I caught 30 or 40 of it off this dock. So I caught 20, 30 pounds in other areas down through there as well. So, so I just, that first dock didn't do much. I just start working my way down through there and boom, start, get to this next cypress tree and catch one, go around the corner and catch another one. So I got to rolling pretty good back and forth. And a big thing was too, the fish kept showing me that they were there. I mean, there were certain little corners or certain places. It was insane how many fish would come up feeding on that bait. It was unbelievable. I don't know if they showed much footage of that or not, but it was incredible how many fish were in 18 inches, 2 feet of water that would come up on these seawalls pushing bait around. So it made it easy to stick around because I knew the fish were still there. It wasn't like I was fishing blind and just wondering if I was ever going to catch one again. I knew I was throwing in front of them. And it was just working back and forth up and down that stretch that really the big adjustment. So on my second day of qualifying, I tried to run Bobby Lane down, and it got to like up in the third period, and he got away from me again. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. So I moved down offshore. I actually went out and fished some offshore hydrilla, and what couple fish I caught were non-scoreable. They were small fish, and I wrote that off completely at that point. I'm like, because the morning deal was definitely best on the seawalls and the docks and that stuff. Definitely a morning thing was best. You catch fish all day, but morning was strong. But I tried that a little bit on that day. I'm like, okay, that's out the window. I won't even worry with that anymore. So on my knockout day, going into the third period, I had got myself in a position where I was comfortable. I want to say it was like 35, 37 pounds. And I'm like, I'm going to make the cut at this point if I catch 1 or 2 more fish the rest of the day. So my practicing on that day was I went out to some more isolated docks that did stick out into 4, 5, 6 feet of water. And I caught like 1 off the first one, go to the next one and catch 2, go to the next one and catch a 4-pounder. I'm like, okay, so now I felt like I had something that worked well in the third period on these deeper outside ends to these docks, to get out there to make an adjustment. And that was kind of what I was getting ready to do on the championship day when the other adjustment that ended up happening ended up leading me, into the winning place. And that was, so I had, say, a 200-yard stretch I've been fishing back and forth on. To where I didn't start there the final day. I started on a place where the wind was blowing that I thought would be better, trying to make a smart adjustment. And I caught 7 pounds off of it, but it wasn't as fast and furious, and the size wasn't what I was looking for. Go back to my main stretch and end up catching just like I had 13 pounds at the end of the first period. Was trailing Andy by 14 pounds or something. And going into the second period, I make like 1 more pass down through here. I might have caught 1. I don't also remember. I get to the end of what I've been fishing. Okay. And I tell my boat official and cameraman, I'm like, 1 more cast, guys, we're going to move. I make 1 more cast. I catch a non-scoreable. Like, okay. I'm like, hold on. Let me make a couple more throws. The fish actually blows up on the next little grass point. I get there to it, throw up, catch a 2.5. Well, let's just keep fishing, because right behind me is the dock that I caught 40 pounds off of. So, I mean, I'm just continuing beyond that, but I haven't been fishing this way. Just a Kissimmee grass line that goes for like 300 yards before you get to the next dock. Another 100 yards up there, so maybe I catch another scoreable. Well, I get nearly to those other docks, and I'm like right on the edge of the Kissimmee grass, man. Just all of a sudden, lots of bait. Boom, catch a 3-pounder. Like, okay. I dip in shallow, catch a 2.5. Go around this dock, go to the next side, catch another 2.5. Like, okay, yeah, I'm around some again. And catching that non-scoreable when I was about to pull the trolling motor that made me just fish that way, that's a lot of the reason that last period went the way it did.
Yeah, because we're talking that last period. You did what now? You caught.
I was.
You went nuts on him, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it was really about the last 45 minutes of the second period. I went from 17, 18, 20 pounds to 32.
Yeah.
And then went from 32 to 73 in the last period. Yeah.
41 pounds in the last period.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. And it was all in that period. It was all OG Slim.
No, it was about half and half. It was about half and half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was pretty close to half and half. Yeah. A lot of those.
Sorry, I had to ask that. You keep talking about the cranking the docks thing and stuff, throwing up beside them.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're about one of the best casters with a crankbait there is. Were you putting that crankbait way up under that dock at times?
As many of them as I possibly could. You know, a lot of those docks were so low, I had to throw that swim jig in there because I could skip it. But if I was able to get Slim under those docks, it was a way better bait to trigger those fish with. Not even close. I'm like, if I could put this bait everywhere I want to, it wouldn't even compare. I mean, it really wouldn't have. But because you just get so much more of a reaction bite out of them. But there were so many places. Yeah, I mean, it's flat-sided, but it doesn't skip like a flat rock. You know, so it would be nice if it did. But yeah, it's a total different look. I mean, I was throwing it a lot of places, and I'll make some good casts here and there, but I had some arrow ones too, and it's a balsa wood bait. And if you're throwing it hard, it doesn't always come back the same way it went under there. And that was part of the reason I ended up having to change colors some throughout the week was from, you know, taking a toll on them on some of those docks. But yeah, there were a lot of fish I caught under those docks on Slim when I could get it under them.
So was that a big key then, was getting it up under the dock and bringing it out as opposed to paralleling those docks like you'd see most crankers do with docks?
Yeah, absolutely. There were only a couple docks where I caught fish actually cranking the outside of those poles. That dock where I caught so many, I caught some on the outside of it, but I caught way more fish. Those were all pole docks. They weren't floating docks. They were all on poles. So if you imagine looking at the outside, like you got the outside set and then the next set in or the set after that, the ones that were completely in the shade, you know, like that outside set may have the sun to the outside, you know, so the back side of those posts are shaded. Well, you get to the next one back and it's under the platform enough that even the cast of the shade, those poles are completely in the shade. That one or even the next one back that was really dark, those were the ones that were most important to get your bait right beside. And that was a big deal. That water was so dirty, you wouldn't catch a fish between the poles. You had to have your bait against the poles. Whichever set of poles it was, you need to have your bait against the poles. That was the strike zone.
Wow. So you had to make contact with it in the shade up under the dock. And that's why a lot of times that jig was better option. But man,
yeah.
How do you even do that? I mean, you can't touch the water, I'm guessing. So you got to throw that thing as like a straight line. It's not just a regular roll cast, is it? How do you get that bait into those places?
Yeah, you know, those docks that were up 1.5 feet off the water, those are the ones I could get enough foot trajectory under there. It is more of a sidearm, just a straight sidearm than it really is a roll cast with so much lift, you know, to try to let that bait skip and then carry like that. It's more of just a knife cut, you know, a trajectory to try to get under there. Because even too, if you try to cast it and let your line hit the top of the dock, a lot of times that would cause your bait to lift and then hit the underside of the dock. So it's much more of just a straight knife cut to the side. That's kind of what you're trying to do.
Wow. Well, just another lesson for us all to remember that even with all the advances in technologies and baits that people don't have and yada, 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 practicing your fundamentals, casting and everything. And you know where I'm from, out down here with all the dock fishing that we got to do. If you can't put multiple types of baits way up under something, you're a donator, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The guy I looked up to a lot, you know, growing up fishing, Craig Powers. I mean, he's excellent with a pop bar. He's like, on shallow water tournaments, if you're a better caster than most of us field out here, you're going to beat 80% of them 80% of the time just by being a better caster. It doesn't matter what the rest of your decision making is, what you got on the end of your line. If you're throwing a jig, if you're throwing a spinner bait, if you're throwing a pop-ar, whatever it is, if you're making a better cast than most of these guys out here, you're going to beat them most of the time in a shallow water tournament, regardless of what you got tied on.
Yep. And you did it at an open water fishery, what normally is an open water fishery.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a funny thing. I went into that event expecting it to be that. I expected to fish brush piles and offshore hydrilla and shell beds. That's what I was planning on doing when I got there. I had no idea, honestly. There was something going on. It was weird for there to be that many fish that big in that shallow water. There really was. I don't know what environmental factors they've got going on down there, but the water being as off-colored as it was had something to do with it. Spraying the grass, or I don't know. There's something going on, but I mean, I'm glad that it all worked out the way it did, because it put them up there where I was able to find them. But it was an odd deal for those fish to be doing what they were doing, no question.
Yeah, this 2021 has been a weird year. It seems like everywhere you guys have been, everywhere the Elite Series has been. I know, Greg, you were just talking about Guntersville being weird, and everything I've experienced is the same way. These fish aren't on schedule. They're not on everybody's calendar in 2021.
Yeah,
at least in the South. GDP, I want to send it back to you.
You guys are hitting all my points, man. You guys are doing good.
I got a pretty good question here on the board from Jake Rash, and he wants to know, do you tune your crankbaits to run left or right when you're fishing around docks?
That's a very good question. When you're doing that, I don't. I always tune my bait to run straight, because I don't want to have to lay the rod down every single time. Now, had I been fishing docks that I could never get the bait underneath, if it was all pole docks, but the water was, say, 6 inches or a foot higher, and I'm not able to get the bait underneath any of them, it probably would have made sense to have one bait running left, one bait running right, just to be able to make perfect contact with those outside poles, or as much contact as you could with those outside poles. But for me, I don't know if it's laziness or whatever. If you're going to tell me to fish this dock correctly, you're going to have 2 different rods, and don't forget, you're going to have to keep them straight in your head. I guess you'd lay one on one side of the boat deck, one on the other. One of them runs left, one of them runs right, to keep them straight. But for me I want to take this one rod, and I'm going to make as good a cast as I can. I'm going to hold my rod tip over and try to, pull that bait that way, or vice versa, pull it over to the right. To do whatever I can to drive that bait into it. Because if I've got the bait that runs left, but now I'm on the left side of the dock, it's running away from the poles, I'm really having to fight that thing to try to keep it anywhere within the realm. I'm going to have to lay that rod down and get the other one. I'm more likely I want to make that bait run straight and try to do the driving with my rod tip as much as possible. That's one thing that, that people should definitely keep in mind too. Use the whole front deck of your boat. You wouldn't believe the difference in your casting and retrieve angles. You step up at the trolling motor, you make the cast, you step back to the console, just how much you can change where that bait's going to go. Don't just stand here and point your rod that way. Step all the way back to the console, dude. You can completely change where that bait's going to end up. That's something I do a lot when I'm fishing docks and stuff like that. Any type of cover where I'm trying to make a very precise, presentation or retrieve with it, I'll use the whole deck of the boat to do that.
Nice. Wow, you want to throw another one at?
I got some stuff over here, JK.
Okay, yeah, hit it.
All right, I got a couple things. I'm going to throw this thing out here first because it's likely to be a mess, and we'll see where it goes. According to the great and powerful mind of the mighty Ken Duke, Ott DeFoe leads all competitors, all Bassmaster Classic competitors who have fished 8 or more, and it might be 5 or more. Yes, 5 or more Classic appearances. Ott has the best winning percentage. Now, the question is, and the answer must be, and this is going to our subscribers, subscribers. This is a grand prize question for the subscribers, Rich. So this is a big prize. But for the guys on Facebook and YouTube, we're going to send you guys something too, probably a dope BU hat or something. But the question has to be the percentile. What is Ott's winning, or what percentile does Ott finish in the Bassmaster Classic? Best guess is probably just start typing numbers.
Wait a minute. What's the question? I didn't follow that at all. What's the percentile he does?
Yeah, thanks.
Like, what's my average finish? Is that what the question is?
I've got to read it to you in his words. All right.
I bet it's an average finish question.
It is, he averages finishing in the blank percentile. Yeah. So it's not what your number finishes, it's percentages. It's Ken Duke. He's got to make it crazy complicated in mathematics.
So if first place would be the 100th percentile.
Yeah, if they were all firsts.
And you got to think about it. There's only ever 50 people in the Classic or whatever.
50, yeah.
We got a winner on the Bass board. Yep.
No way.
We got it. Sean Lay. 84%.
No, Rich.
Oh, God.
Come on, dude.
He only said the first part. He didn't say it all.
Wasn't that what we were looking for? Was a winner?
On all three of our
percentile.
Yeah, all three of our platforms tonight. So we can get everybody involved.
Oh.
Well, you know. We teach people how to fish, not be smart.
Not use a calculator.
Good at catching fish.
Yeah.
All right. Well, wherever it ended up.
That's one plus that I have on Brandon Pollock. I only couldn't count to 5 once. He's done it like 3 times.
Dang, man, right over my head. I have to listen back. I missed it.
Brandon has won all of the events that he did it in too.
Yeah.
He said it still hasn't hurt him.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, so we had a question on YouTube a while back. I thought it was pretty interesting because he was very detailed. This is Halo on YouTube. He's got a blueback herring lake, late summer, midday, no wind with grass. What are you throwing? And are the fish feeding up or feeding down?
I would say dynamite, but that's a much better question actually for Justin.
You might be right.
I know my areas of knowledge, and blueback herring is definitely not one of them.
Right.
What I do know, I'm going to say that they'd be feeding up. That's just blueback herring fish almost always feed up. So that's kind of my default answer to that. But if you said it was like late summer,
yeah, midday, no wind.
I would tell him to go to the river. I would tell him to take his boat as far upstream as it will go and try to find some current.
Yeah,
and then throw top water,
or to a different lake.
Or a lake that's got grass in it. But late summer, I would go to a river either way.
Yeah.
That's a tough time of year.
Well, I think that's all I got.
Oh. That's a great answer for sure.
I got a question for you. How much did it hurt not fishing the Bass Open on Douglas this year?
When I went back and saw that 43 pounds won it, which Douglas has been fishing extremely tough the last few years. It definitely has. The weights have fell off the last couple of years there. But when I saw 43 pounds on it for 3 days, I was like, dang it, I might could have scrounged that. Maybe. I ain't gonna say I would have. But yeah, I might could have scrounged that up. But I was turkey hunting a lot then, so I didn't miss it too bad. That's something that has become a new addiction for me. That's for sure. I absolutely love turkey hunting. So it'd have been at best a toss up because I like turkey hunting that much. So it would have been right in the middle of that. But yeah, that is a fun place. Now, you all, did you fish that, Greg?
I did not know. No.
You didn't? Okay. No, they hit it really, really weird. So we had right before that, we'd had big rains. The lake shot up to like summer pool. By the time the tournament got there, they had sucked it back down probably 10 or 12 feet. And like during the tournament, it actually leveled off and slowly started to rise back a little bit. So I would have had very minimal advantage, to be quite honest, because it was so screwy. So it kind of stung because it wasn't like anybody blew it out. Had something crazy special that they wanted with, but my local advantage would have been minimal just because the conditions were so screwy.
I bet. So what did you win? 2 or 3 in a row so far there for the Opens bass?
On the Opens, I won 2 in a row, won 17, and I won 1 in 14, but then I won 1 in 17 and 18.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And those were both in the fall. Those were both the time of year, like he was mentioning, late summer. Those were both September events, and the first one, given the rules that bass had with boat regulations at the time, and the boat that I had and what it was capable of, had I not won that one, I would have been extremely disappointed.
Okay.
I really would have. That's like the time of the year. If I can get where I was going to go in that boat I had set up the way I had it set up, it was going to go where I needed it to go. I would have been very surprised as well as very upset if I didn't win that one. The next one, the very next year, water levels were considerably higher, and stuff was kind of weird. Rules had gotten changed. I had to borrow a boat. I didn't know just how capable it was. I had a spare gear case. It was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And really the only reason I won that one was because they did end up sucking the water down so hard that Patrick Walters on the final day had a really tough time getting where he was going. And I was still able to get where I was going. That's the only reason I ended up really winning that one. It messed up his accessibility where he was going, where I was dumb enough to still run.
Nah, not dumb at all. I like it.
That's right.
It's only dumb. It's only dumb to mess up.
Right?
Yeah. But those rivers there on that place. That's people ask me, they're like, "What's your favorite place to fish?" I always tell them Douglas. It's not because it's a world-class fishery. I just know it. I just know it really well. That's why I like it.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Right on. So we had our Facebook and YouTube winner was Todd Dickinson. Shout out to the homie Todd. And Rich, who was the Facebook winner?
Our Facebook winner, chosen by our man Alabama Mike Reed, was
Matt Miller.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but
Mac Miller.
Matt Miller. That's not who I have for Mike Reed. We are really all over the place here. I had Jeffrey Young.
Well, they both win.
Well, they all win. Everybody's a winner.
Let's get them. Let's get them.
Read the whole paragraph, and then get back to me with that, Rich. All right. Anyhow,
watching here.
Yeah, Jeffrey Young's our like and share winner. But thanks, dude. I appreciate you making. Oh, so you caught one with your toe. You landed a fish with your toes.
Oh yeah, let's go into that.
What the hell?
Land too, dude. There's alligators in Florida. What are you doing getting in the water?
Oh, that's okay. They won't bite. They're just scared as you are them. So it just depends on just how scared you are of them. I had, for the record, I hadn't seen any in this area since I've been there. That doesn't mean that they're not. But yeah. So this is basically the same cast. I had caught a 2.5 and a 5.12 on 10 minutes prior, and there's a dock and there's a line of Kissimmee grass, and it's actually like 2.5 feet deep right in front of it, but my boat's sitting at 17, which for Florida is a massive drop, obviously.
Yeah.
And I had trolled across these fish's head unknowingly an hour before this, but I had fished through there. I was coming back through this area, and I noticed on my 360 as well as my late master map, I'm like, man, there's actually a break here. And I had noticed this in some areas on Harris, that there were places that had some depth change and stuff to them. So I see this little deal. I pick up Slim. I throw across this little point of Kissimmee grass and actually hang a nice fish, 2.5, 3 pounder, and he pulled and come off. Dang. So I'm kind of fan casting, working it's an obvious break right in front of this Kissimmee grass on my 360. I'm throwing nothing. Well, I kind of just round the corner. I'm just fishing just throwing down the outside of the Kissimmee grass, fire cast up there between the dock and Kissimmee grass, 2.5, throw back, 512. Man, all right. So I catch those. Well, then it's like the school kind of busted up or whatever. It felt like when I caught the 512, like I'm reeling it down, it goes dunk, 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 and then finally that big one gets. I mean, there was more than one fish in there after it,
Ooh.
But the next 5, 6, 10 casts, nothing. So I move on. 5 minutes later, he's back up there. Actually, I think I caught a scoreable, 112 or something. I throw back, I hang this fish, and it instantly goes towards the dock. You know, I can feel it go around the pole. Dang. I kind of wait there a second, hoping it's going to swim back out. Nothing. It just keeps going deeper. So I take off on the trolling motor, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just like on a splinter or something. I get in there, I reel down to it, and no, it's around the other side of the pole. Dang. So I get the boat backed up there to it, stopped. And I'm like, well, I can get in. I can go in for him. And I'm kind of waiting. He goes, I'm like, well, he's still on there. So I got the rod in my hand, and I ended up just setting it down on the deck of the boat. And I'll take my mic off because it's reading 3 foot or something, but you add a couple feet to that. It's going to be 5 or 6 feet probably right here. So I don't know just how deep I'm going to have to get, but I'm going to go in feet first. I'm not just going to cannonball off in here and then go dive down, try to find my line. I'm going to just slip down in here and, try to find the line. There's a crankbait down here somewhere. I don't want to run into it in the dark. So I just started easing down through there. I'm like, well, let me stick my feet down here, feel around this pole, and see if I can find the line. And I'm running my feet around through there, and I'm like, okay, there, it's coming around this side. Oh yeah, okay, here's it is running out the other side of the dock. So I get my toes under the line, push myself back up onto the boat, and just pull the line up with my foot, and get it between my legs. And it wasn't around anything else; it was just around that one pole. And he's kind of like back underneath the boat. I just hand lined him up between my legs. He took off one time. I'm like, I hope he don't hook my legs. And he eased back up there. He was pretty tired by that point. Just laid up on the side and opened his mouth. I was like, got him.
That's so awesome, man.
Got a face full of DMC hybrid. Short trees.
Yeah, it was locked in his jaw right there, perfect, just the way you'd want it. I had filmed on a different lake on one of my off days for my YouTube channel, and I caught a 7.5 pounder on a wacky worm and did about the same thing, except my buddy who filmed it for me, he told me after it was over with, he said, take a stab. I mean, this was like 10-pound line, giant fish, dude, it runs out the other side of the dock. Like, open the bell and throw the rod on the dock and go find the line and hand line this fish in kind of deal. But he asked me, he's like, take a stab at how long that took. And I said, 4.5 minutes. He said it was almost 9 minutes to land this fish. So that'll be on my YouTube channel here before too long.
Wow.
I guess it was practice for what came up a couple days later.
Yeah.
But
very cool.
Yeah, it was a crazy one.
I got to ask the follow-up question there because you mentioned it a few times, but you're talking about the 360 and how, I mean, it's always the debate for me when I'm fishing shallow water and stuff, whether to keep it on or not. You're in competition mode. You're obviously you're not caring about the clicking sound or anything like that. I mean, it's that vital. How often for you, Ott, is it determining where you're casting? It
definitely varies. Most of this tournament had very little bearing on it because I'm seeing what I'm throwing under these docks at these poles. I'm throwing at the cypress trees. I'm throwing at all this stuff. But that last period of that last day, it had quite a bit to do with it, and really led me to those fish that were out just a little bit because of what the way I could see that made a big break there. You could kind of tell it on 2D, but the fact that I could see, really just how that was shaped on 360 before I did troll across it, it definitely is something that I'd keep on all the time. I had it on this whole event, start to finish, never turned it off. Where at times I had my 2D turned off.
Right.
I did when I was fishing that super shell stuff. I had my 2D cut off, but that 360, it just makes a hum. The 2D, it's got that loud ticking. The 360 just it's a real low, steady. It's not that hard, tick 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 kind of sound. So I always leave 360 on. And in an event like that, it was 5% of the time, 10% of the time was all that it really affected where I threw. But that 5 or 10% right there in that final period was pretty important.
Yeah, no kidding.
How does that the difference in the sound, obviously the fish have been hearing 2D sonar for a really long time. And the Humminbird 360, it's been around now for the Mega's been what, 3, 4 years?
Yeah, probably 2 or 3. Yeah, probably 3 years on Mega, but the regular had been around a while before that. But it was similar. I don't think it had the tick, the kind of tick sound it had either.
Do you think that almost like the fish haven't heard that 360 sound for as long, so it doesn't necessarily bother them as much? Or do you think it doesn't even matter?
I don't think it matters too much. I really don't, because to me it's such a low, steady sound. That tick 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 tick. The way 2D does, man, it varies a lot. It's not as consistent. It may be high pitched, it may be lower pitched. It's up and down. That 360 is just a slow, steady, constant. It doesn't have those highs and lows to it. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a bass fisherman, but in my mind, it doesn't seem as that it would turn fish off as much as that ticking does. But yeah, I'm not a scientist in that. That's just from seeing what I'm casting to what I'm reeling in. But that's all my scientific results have to do with.
Well, were you using your hydrowave in conjunction with it at all?
I was not in this event. No, I was not. Yeah, there's definitely, I've seen it play times here and there. There's no doubt that I've seen the hydrowave, turn them on and stuff. But in this particular event, just because I was fishing so shallow, that I was not running any.
Cool. Well, Ott, man, thank you for your time. We've kept you long enough, and man, thanks for diving into the details with us. I know a lot of us, I know myself included, have learned a lot tonight. Really, really appreciate you taking the time with us. And man, from all of us here at Bass U, congratulations on yet another one. We can't wait to watch the next one come and hopefully maybe surprise you again. I bet it was fun to be surprised. So man, congrats.
Thank y'all very much. It definitely was a surprise.
Yeah, and the OG Slims, the most sellingest new bait for Rapala, record breaking.
Still can't get them.
Yeah.
It's been pretty cool to see, and I've had some top 10s, at UFAL and other places on Bass Pro Tour and stuff with it, but this is the first win that it actually took part in, so that's really cool for me. No doubt to be able to have a win tied to Slim now.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You know what would also be cool? You know what would be cool for me?
Have one?
I trade you my address for a couple of them baits.
Don't take it.
Yep. You know where Mike lives? He's got a couple for sure.
He probably does, but I mean he's got guard dogs on that stuff.
With me, man. Remember the Knoxville Classic that Ike won? And Ike was showing us the bait that he thought he was going to win the Classic on, and it was OG Slim.
Yeah,
it was. The time we saw that bait before it ever came out.
It was the OG Slim.
He only had one left. Had to go to Ott, and Ott was kind enough to get him a couple more.
Ott, how many have you won on baits that you made?
Ooh. Great question.
I mean I caught a lot of fish. I caught quite a few at Sam Rayburn on a square bill it's a prototype. At Athens, it was a DT10, but it was in one that my buddy painted, the pre-big shad.
Mm-hmm.
I guess most of them. The Classic was on a Arashi vibe, but I colored it with Sharpies. Yeah. So I guess I can't win one unless it's on. I need to go out here and cut up some swim baits or do something with them, glue some tails on some different stuff. Yeah. No, that was a funny phone call from Mike at the National Classic. He was like, he really, really wanted them. He really didn't want me to know that he was catching them on it, but he really needed some more baits, So and he kind of felt, he was like, how am I going to go to the guy that the only person I can get these from, I'm fishing against. It's his hometown tournament. It's like, how am I supposed, it was a really weird phone call. I was more than willing to help him out, but it was a funny phone call. It was pretty cool for him.
You're a better man than he is. He wouldn't have answered that call.
Right. But he came to the house and I whipped him up a few, and he was definitely grateful. So yeah,
I remember seeing it.
And I give Mike a big thanks in that, because he us both being sponsored by Rapala, he's obviously got a lot of influence, and he helped push them along, for them to see that they needed to do that bait with me. So I definitely appreciate his efforts in that.
Cool.
Right on.
Yeah, send him my address.
Yep.
Well, we'll see you. Good luck at Chickamauga.
Okay.
Good luck the rest of the way. We'll be watching, man. Thanks for taking time with us, and congrats
sounds
to
great.
everybody. Ott DeFoe, the champ.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ott.
See you, buddy.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys. Yep. See y'all.
Woo.
Right.
Awesome. Great stuff, guys.
All right.
Awesome.
Guy always brings it. Always brings the juice.
Yeah.
People enjoy
Rich, what are you going to do when your eyes are as bad as mine?
What?
I said, what are you going to do when your eyes get as bad as mine?
I don't know. They might be headed that way pretty soon. Who knows? I'll let you know.
Oh, man. Well, what do you want to do, man? We got do you want to take a commercial break and then come back and finish, or you just want to roll into it and then run the commercial break on the outro?
Let's take a commercial break. Come back and hang out for another 10 or so minutes.
All right. Sounds good, man. On it. And see you guys in 2.5.
Moment on the water not spent fishing is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together. The One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
Tackle Warehouse is proud to sponsor the FLW Pro Circuit and is the official tackle retailer of FLW, providing proven bass fishing gear as well as the newest and hottest tackle. Our friendly and knowledgeable customer service staff can help you every step of the way. And we offer free ground shipping on orders over $50. Tackle Warehouse. Everything for the bass angler at the lowest prices. Guaranteed.
I have to be constantly on the lookout for new techniques to stay on the top of my game.
Giant.
Some have been more successful than others.
Giant.
The finesse fingernail.
Happens every time.
The chain gang.
Broke it off.
The crow's nest.
Never let go.
And don't even get me started on tackle management, especially trying to stop rust and corrosion. Peanut butter.
Not good.
Motor oil.
Gotta keep the rust off all these baits.
WD-40.
Gotta keep the rust off.
Silica, toothpicks, Q-tips, the list goes on and on. I'm hard on tackle, I fish fast, I need my tackle organized and protected. I can't be worrying about losing baits to rust. And when it comes to tackle management, there's only one solution. Flambeau Tackle Storage Systems with Z-Rust technology. The original anti-rust tackle box. Uncompromised clarity. Renowned durability. The infused anti-rust option that is FDA safe and free of harmful chemicals. The organization options are endless, but there's only one. one box, one anti-corrosion technology, one family-owned, American-made brand, Flambeau Z-Rust Tackle Solutions. Preserve, perform, repeat.
And we're back, guys.
All right. We're back. Let's take it home. Let's
JK, let me bring Pete's situation into this real quick. Give the people the update. So Pete's not with us tonight because Jake's T-ball team was in the World Series finale finals, and looks like they took a 1-1 tie into the final inning. The opposing team scored 2 runs at top of inning. Jake made a play in left field to hold them there. They scored 1 run in the bottom of the 6th and lost a 3-2 nail biter. So
great season, though.
Yeah, awesome season, man.
Yep,
Awesome season.
So Pete's got no excuse not to be here next week.
That's right.
Right, JK?
I mean, we are getting up early and headed to the Texas the next morning, or at least
to the Texas.
To the Texas.
Me and Alabama Mike Reed will be coming live from the Texas.
From the Texas. Yeah. Oh, are we doing one next week or no?
I mean, I haven't heard anything of a cancellation or anything, so we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
I know Pete's always giddy to talk about the Bassmaster Classic. I guess this would be his chance to do so. But yeah.
You know what? And we'll be on the back end of the Ike Pro-Am or the Ike Foundation charity event, which is going on this Saturday.
Yeah, we're all fishing this weekend. I'm fishing the ABT 100 on Eufaula Saturday. Big tournament. Yeah.
What's the 100 mean?
It's a limited field, 100 boats.
So they cap it.
They cap it.
Okay.
And you can't, I bet there's less than 10 spots available this coming up year. I bet less than 10 teams drop out. And they let the pros fish. Some of them signed up where I think there's conflicts. The guys, whoever's in the Classic, I know Clint Davis won't be there because of the Bassmaster Classic conflict. I think Jordan Lee won't be there because of this Chickamauga conflict. But guys like Lee Livesey and Gerald Swindle, who aren't in the Classic, I'm pretty sure they're going to be there this weekend.
And then they'll go. Then they'll show up at the Classic.
Sure, dude, it's stout competition, man. It's not just the fact that there's pros. I mean, dude, it's Alabama Bass Trail. Those guys are just. I mean, it's you got to catch them. It's a one-day tournament. You've got to catch them. It wouldn't surprise me if. It's going to take 25, 26 pounds to win this weekend, probably where I'm headed.
Wow.
That's pretty big bag. That's a big
Yeah.
sack.
And it could not be. The BFL was horrible. The weights were so low. It took 8 pounds to get a check, 8.12 to get a check. But I think the lake was similar to like what Greg experienced at Guntersville, where there's just fish all over the place from spawn to in between to not out on anything. And it took 22 to win last Saturday. So I'm hopeful that those little things, maybe I shouldn't be. Not being a local down there, maybe I should hope that it's, that something happens, like the water comes up or something to just keep them scattered. But, typically.
We had a good question come through earlier, Rich. I'm not sure where it was, but it was a question to you and Greg, I believe, comparing, or at least to Greg for sure, comparing the grass on Guntersville to the Chesapeake. Was that right? Is that how that went?
Yeah.
Rich?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't compared to that. Rich asked a question, I thought, and then the guy Joe asked another question about new grass coming up.
Okay,
that was the other question about grass.
You did. I think you did send me an image, Brian, of it was either Facebook or YouTube, where they were asking for the comparison, and I'll let Greg weigh in on this for sure. But the one thing that I noticed about the difference in the grass is like, to me, like at this point in the year, on the Chesapeake for us, like the milfoil is still very much growing, and it's lush. In a lot of places, it's really just starting to get to, at least the places that I fish, it's just starting to get to its, full life. It's really starting to happen. Whereas what I saw on Guntersville, a lot of it to me looked like it was going away, and that's why I was wondering what Greg's opinion on that was. But and another big difference is on the Chesapeake, a lot of the grass that we fish is in 5 feet or less, and on Guntersville, I'm sure, and I'll let Greg go in on this more, that I'm sure that milfoil grows out to much deeper than 5 feet. So yeah, I mean, to me, that's what I saw as the differences from a tidal fishery to a place like Guntersville.
Yeah, the Chesapeake, the grass is very specific where it's at. Unlike Guntersville, where it's grass from one end to the next. And the later in the year Guntersville gets, and Justin can verify this, it only seems like it gets more and more, then it mats out and cheeses out, versus a lot of the stuff we live, once it mats out and cheeses out, a lot of it with the weather situation comes through, actually blows it out and takes it away. Where I think on Guntersville, it just keeps on building. They're two different places, completely. I think Guntersville, man, I don't know an area on Guntersville really doesn't have grass at some point. Maybe down by the Browns area for a little bit, but that's about it, right?
Yeah, that's about it. And man, I feel like there were those few years where they started spraying, so there were pockets of the lake that just got, it got eradicated. And I honestly think that's how eelgrass flourished, was them beginning to spray the hydrilla. It used to be dominated by hydrilla and milfoil and coontail, all that stuff, that big yellow cheese. And you're getting it now, but like Riz, if you would imagine like the back of that one creek where we were doing the frogging and stuff that one morning, there was a bunch of hydrilla and stuff, the further you went back there. In November and late October, it's going to be completely yellow. All of that, just completely thick. If you're shallower than 5 or 6 feet back there, completely caked with yellow.
Right.
So,
and we see that, under circumstances on the Chesapeake. Some years we get the cheese a lot more than others. Some years we get those giant floating black mats that come up off the bottom mysteriously. Every year's a little bit different, but it almost sounds to me like on a place like Guntersville, it's more consistent from year to year. Like you're gonna get the matted and the cheese every year at the end of the summer, no matter what. Is that kind of what I'm taking from this?
Yeah, typically every year, unless they spray it or something.
Right.
Because that's the what Guntersville's famous for, is that late summer, fall into the late fall frogging and flipping, but really a lot of frogging. I remember guys, a lot of the pros at least in the fall events, were very adamant. You can't win punching on Guntersville in the fall when the frog bites on. Like you can't win flipping. You can't win flipping. And then Kyle Walters won a 3-day event flipping in the Toyota Series championship but I don't know if all of a sudden the grass had more canopies, and more holes in it to flip because of the spraying or because of another reason. I think it's just comes down to like the same puzzle and equation that we all have to put together when we're out there is where are the bass swimming or living, and what's the most efficient tool based on the environment, man, I can remember Guntersville glory days. When I was 19, I fished the Bassmaster Open, and I found out that I was I wasn't even ready for the co-angler side yet. I was pretty green, but I got to practice with Wesley Strader. So I had my eyes opened on that place. The dude caught him cranking and flipping and frogging and, punching. And it was just like all these new techniques, and he's catching 4 to 5 pound fish, and he had a great event. I know he kind of gambled that event, but he had like 22 pounds day one. But so I got shown a great first tour. But that tournament, like Tharp won that tournament, frogging. There was a 10-pounder caught on a frog in that event. there were multiple 7s and 8s caught on a frog in that event. Like, it was the glory days. It was the exact time of year. I believe it was September or October or something like that. And man, it was bonkers what you could go do at that place. And I was really young. I wish I had known more back then, but haven't seen that in a while, where you get all those 25-pound plus bags there in the fall, that time of year. But who knows? I mean, Greg said, he felt like it's on a downturn, and then I collide with a group of fish that makes me think Guntersville's, man, that felt kind of like the old Guntersville, That's just fishing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, there's no doubt, man. Even where we live, the fish are getting educated every day. They're getting pounded on. And Guntersville, it's just, I have never been anywhere in the country besides Guntersville where it's just nonstop everywhere. It's crazy how many guys fish that place. Every ramp is packed on Guntersville every day of the week.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I got to ask you something, Greg. This brings up a good point, because I know, we worked with Drew Benton too, and just, a couple of miles down from where I found this group of fish, Drew Benton had told me on his way out of town, he's like, man, if y'all get over there, go check this one place. I'm like, okay. He's like, I absolutely obliterated them, and it was, after the tournament was over and whatnot, while he was killing a day working for us. And I found that school, Greg, but it was, after he had just obliterated them the day before. Not one bite, dude.
Oh yeah.
Not one bite. So, like, how often in those kind of offshore events, if when those happen, I know you guys haven't had a lot this year. Like you said, I'm sure Garrett Paquette has hated 2021 because the fish have just not done it yet.
Yeah, it's wasn't a good offshore.
Yeah. But, like, think through those tournaments. Like, how often are you keeping in mind where certain people are posted up and being like, oh, I can X that off tomorrow? Like, they're pulverized that school.
Yes and no. U-Fall is a great example, because U-Fall last year, I would say 75% of the guys were fishing offshore. And, 3 days of practice, all of us graphing out there, we all found a lot of the same schools. A lot of them schools were reloading, so I don't think you could ever write them off. It's almost like if you don't see somebody on one of them spots, get on it. That's almost what it comes down to. A lot of times, too, like in offshore schools, dude, if you got 10 schools offshore located, there might be one school that fires in the tournament day. That's it. So if you can rotate through, it doesn't matter if somebody was just on it. Like, if they leave, turn their gas motor on, they might fire the school if you pull in there and catch them. So I don't ever write us. Or no, if I see a guy on it or see a guy over here, I always just take note where they are, because if I had it marked also, if I come back down, they're not on it, I'm stopping on it.
Yeah.
You got 75 guys fishing offshore out of 100. That doesn't leave much water, as far as schools go. So if I see open spot, I don't care who's been on it, I'm going right to it, blast it or not.
Yeah, I like that thought process.
Yep. You have to. I mean, you just have to do it that way. There's no other way to do it. Otherwise, you'd be just burning time, riding around looking for, no spots available. But also on the Elite Series level, man, the majority of the guys understand that it's an offshore tournament, and you can pull up on the side of them for the most part.
What do you mean, like
side by side? Day one is a very important day of a tournament for us guys, because day one is almost like, you kind of make your areas known that what you already found, in practice. So when you pull into an offshore spot, if there's somebody there day one, you pull in there, they know you're not pulling in because they're not winning the tournament off it. They know you're pulling in because you also found these fish. I feel like at this level, you have to understand that at some point you have to work together. And the majority of the guys understand that are truly offshore guys. There's a handful of guys that don't, but the majority do.
Yeah, it seems like that. I know I've seen so many pictures where there's 3 boats on this one, 4 boats on this one.
Yep.
I
mean, look at St. Lawrence last year.
They don't like it if you come late to the party.
Yeah, don't come late is what I'm trying to say. Look at St. Lawrence last year. There was 5 of us fishing one buoy, basically. We were all grouped up within, 10, 15 feet of each other.
Wow.
But we all started there day one. So.
Yep. And man, thinking through things through like our level, Rich, where like if you're in a 1-day tournament in BFL, that's not going to be as kosher in a BFL for you to just pull up uninvited on
you know what? All the years of fishing the flat and just being clustered out there, all the guys, it doesn't bother me at all. It's like, come on, you coming in? You might as well just come in now. Just come in and work together. Don't fight about it.
Man,
if you start fighting about it, it just goes downhill quick.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it. Like I started. So you follow there. They were not out there at the BFL. I fished 2 Saturdays ago, but I had found a spot where I felt like if I could put 5 together, I could catch 17, 18 pounds. The problem was I didn't know 16 pounds was going to win the tournament. I knew it was tough, but I thought I was looking for 24. It's Eufaula.
Yep.
And so I get there and I catch a 2 3/4 pounder early, and I lose a giant like 20 minutes in. I lost a giant cranking. Like she crested the surface. She was 5 or 6, just big old long fish, and that stung. But then I just wasn't making the right change or getting the right angle or patient enough. And I let about an hour go into the tournament where I'm thinking of all these swim jig bites I shook off, and I made a bad decision. Now I made some decent decisions to weigh in a limit that day because there were not a lot of limits weighed in. But that school, there was multiple fish there, and I probably should have stayed on it. But when I came back, of course, there was a boat on it. There was a boat on it the rest of the day. And in that BFL setting, I just could not bring myself, because I was fishing about 100-yard stretch. I could not bring myself to come up. And even though it was probably a community hole, and one time I saw 2 boats on it, but I couldn't bring myself to just come in on the edge. I don't know why, if it's just me coming up as a shallow guy and now I'm getting off a little bit more.
You guys spend some time in Jersey.
No,
yeah,
I mean,
man.
You're one of the few guys, and I respect that, Justin. I really do. But there's been a lot of times this year, where guys have asked me, "Hey, do you care if I come in on over here?" Or I ask them, "Hey, do you mind if I go down here?" Asking is always the easiest way. If the guy says no, then
What is it?
Asking.
Oh,
yeah.
Asking, Brian.
Asking.
By the way, Ott DeFoe had a beard also. You're missing out again.
Mind if I dance with your date?
Are you asking?
Yo, Kel.
Hey. Yeah. If you always ask, you can never get in trouble.
Sorry,
Brian. It's just me and you.
Yo, Justin, lights are out.
Yeah, I got the lights out there. Hold on.
Timer.
Oh, it's getting romantic over there. So then you're saying it's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
If you ask and he says, "Come on in," it's definitely cool.
All right.
Well, make it a party.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I like that, Greg.
I always ask. I usually always ask. I mean, there's only one time I didn't ask because of what happened, but yeah.
I was kicking myself because I felt like that was one of those first places. It wasn't an offshore place. It was one of those tweener spots.
Tweener.
Like 6-7 feet of water, and they were. I felt like they were coming and stopping. You know what I'm saying?
Spot.
Like
I know spots like that.
They were just coming, but they were stopping, but they were there. And I went back the next morning because I had to be in Guntersville at like 2 or something. And so with it getting light at 5, I was like, man, I'm going to go out there for a couple hours and just see if that was the lesson, work on that spot, try to switch up baits. Dude, I had 19 pounds by like 8:30 and out. Like I found the switch, and it was a bait switch. And I'm not going to talk about it because I got a $25,000 tournament coming up. But dude, when I made that bait switch, they were gagging on it, and it was the quickest 19 pounds I think I've ever caught in my life.
Wow, that's nice.
So,
I rather know what would lead a day one tournament than knowing what the winning bait is for that event. I'd rather know the weights, period. Because that's the biggest question. What is it going to take all the time? What is it going to take? That's the number one question I always think to myself. Like
I'm
Justin,
still thinking about dancing with Kelly, but
that's fine. A lot of guys probably do. But
yeah, winner.
Chicken dinner. Yeah, so that's me.
That's good stuff.
Brian.
What? Question?
I told you I'm on something else right now.
Here you are. What's that,
Nobody
Justin?
wants to ask GDP anything?
Oh yeah, I got two things.
What you got, Brian?
So tonight, I'm sorry, Rich, just be real quick. We heard early on, Greg, before I came on, we heard whoop it. Or whoop it, whoop it.
Whip it?
Whoop it.
Whoop it.
It was whoop it. And then later we heard wung it.
He wung it.
Yeah.
From me or I?
No, from you.
Yeah, I got words.
I just wrote them down. There was whoop it and wung it.
Do you like the way I talk?
I do.
I'm the only true South Jersey guy in this whole entire joint right here. So.
You're a combination of a lot of things, I think.
You think so?
Yeah, you're like, yeah.
Huh.
Kind of like South Jersey, it's a little bit Italian.
A lot of Italian.
Yeah.
It's all the pasta I eat.
Yeah, a little bit of pasta, a little bit of like some kind of Southern accent once in a while.
I'm unique.
you are. Like a chameleon. So what's the past tense of wung it?
Past tense of wung it?
Yeah.
Wunged it. I don't know.
It's better than wang it.
Wunged?
Wunged.
Wonged.
I mean, that's about all I got, you know.
Cool.
Got to go to kitchen tomorrow and get a job going. The job's going.
That sounds pretty awesome. You know what I'm doing tomorrow?
Fishing, probably.
I'm going fishing. You want to go?
No, I'm going to fish Saturday.
Why? What's Saturday?
The Ike Pro-Am on the Chesapeake.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, you fishing it? You see?
About 100, I think. I don't know. Rich, how many boats they got?
I think that 100, maybe likely more.
Probably more
not
by
sure.
now.
I know they are. There is going to be a cap.
Yeah, 150 is the cap.
150.
150.
And they're definitely working their way there. So if there's
$50.
anybody that's watching right now and you haven't signed up for the Ike Foundation Pro-Am, it's on the Chesapeake this Saturday. Come fish for a chance to win a bass cat.
That's
Only
right.
happens once a year. Get off the fence. Get signed up. All the money goes to a great cause. Get kids involved in the sport of fishing.
That's right.
Get signed up.
No brainer.
Stop hiding.
Yeah,
That's
man.
it's a good time, too.
It's a great cause. And I mean, seriously, like, you got a really good shot at winning a boat.
Yeah.
And entry's not that much.
No.
Yeah.
You split 300 between two guys with a chance to win a $30,000 boat. Come on.
Yep.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's fishing tough. Pete called me and Rich earlier, and man, was he crying the blues. Crying the blues.
Yeah, it's a little different.
It's not what he told me.
Me either.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, Rich.
What's that, Greg?
Rich be wishing.
The Peak told us a different story. But
Rich is just going to show up and cast, dog.
Man, so Pete was being silent because Rich was on the phone with me.
He'll win.
What you're saying, BTC?
All right, here you go, Brian. Here's a prime example. So would you rather know the winning bait on the upper bay or what it's going to take to win? What it's going to take to win. That's what I want. Because that's going to tell me a little bit of an idea, like maybe I should just go down here and swing for a big old bag, or maybe I'll just stay here and be consistent. See?
why wouldn't you swing for a big bag?
Why would I? There's no point. I only catch
trying to
three.
win.
I only catch 3 fish, though. I might catch 2.
No. I would, for me, it'd be the bait.
Nah, that's
but yeah, I don't fish enough, man.
You throw a G crack. That's all you throw.
No, it ain't.
Whatever it's called.
The bellows gill?
Whatever it is.
I'm with Greg. I want to know the winning weight.
Yeah,
well, you guys, yeah, you're on another level than I am.
What level are you on?
I don't know.
Whoop it.
I'm on work all week and fish once a week, on the weekends.
They're the best kind of guys, man.
Yeah, for what? To pay your mortgage with?
Yes.
Yeah, donators. I got you.
I'm with you, Greg. I'd rather know
no doubt
what I'm shooting for.
Yeah.
Just I was totally out of touch with it.
Yeah, if you know the body of water that good, that makes sense.
That's not my position, though. That last one, I don't know you follow well at all.
Well, there you have it.
He faulted.
There you have it.
Well,
BTC.
I think we won a good one tonight.
We wunged it.
Yeah.
We wunged it.
What is Greg's favorite bait to throw on the flat this Saturday?
Is that your question or somebody else's?
St. Cres. What is Greg's favorite bait to throw on the flat day in and day out, mostly this Saturday?
Well, they're calling for some weather possibly on Saturday. I'm gonna go with a spinner bait.
They're calling for weather?
A little bit.
Wind?
Rain.
A little rain? All
right.
right.
You want the exact spinner bait, the exact color, line size, rod, reel, all that stuff?
That's what St. Chris was. It's the Bass University, bro.
What's his name?
St. Chris. I don't know, dude.
Well, you're making fun of me for talking. You can't even read.
Cres. You pronounce it.
Crest.
Chris. There's no T. Just Chris.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to War Eagle chartreuse and white. 3/8 or half ounces, blowing real hard.
Yeah.
Gold, silver blade. What up?
Yeah,
braid. I'm throwing braid.
You and everybody else.
Maybe I throw it different.
Whoa! You're throwing braid on that?
Well, I can't tell you all the secrets.
You just did. That's a misdirection, Rich. You know his game.
Not true.
No.
I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't like throwing a spinner bait on braid.
Wow.
If you knew the reason for it, Brian, it would blow your hat off.
Well, tell us the reason.
I can't say everything. He asked about the bait. He didn't ask why.
St. Chris.
Quick,
ask him why.
All right, we're going to wrap this one up, boys.
So wait, with the Y on the what? Braid?
Who?
The who, the Y, and the what?
Nah, I actually sharpen the blades.
So you sharpen the blades?
Hey, I actually have a bait coming out.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, I definitely can't talk about it because Terminator and OG Slim are trying to make it. Ooh, it's a good one too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's unique, is what you're saying.
What would it be called?
The In-Betweener.
Ooh.
Yeah. The TT flies are out already. Fruit flies.
What that means.
The In-Betweener?
That's not the real name, but yeah.
I got you.
That's your guess right now. That's all you get.
All right. Rich, you got a bait coming out that you're not going to talk about too?
How can I talk about it? I can't talk about it.
I think everybody pretty much knows what I throw. I mean, I end up just posting it on social media anyway. I'm an open book.
Wagon.
You end up seeing it.
Spinning Rod Rich in 2021.
Yeah, right.
Maybe.
At least at Guntersville. Oh my gosh, was he comfortable with that spinning rod?
I saw. Should be. It's good stuff. All right. Anything else? Any questions, Rich?
No, man. We got somebody that wanted to know why about the braid on the braid on the spinnerbait. Greg, I think that we're probably going to have if that's something you actually do, I think we'll have pretty similar reasons why. But I'll throw out the reason because when you said it,
I'm not throwing my reason out, and it's definitely not the same.
For me, it's simple. You know, when we're fishing around eelgrass and that kind of stuff, it's a lot easier. You feel your spinnerbait a lot more. It's not necessarily a clearing of the bait thing for me. If a teeniest, tiniest, babiest bit of grass gets on that spinnerbait, I know it because I'm fishing with braid and it's a little bit more sensitive, and I know when to give my bait a good hard snap or a pop to clear it off. I mean, that's why I would throw bait. I don't know why Greg would throw bait, but like Justin said, I just throw a spinner. I just throw a spinner rod all the time.
I could see a lot of different reasons. I could see the bait clearing thing being a deal. I could see the fact that braid floats versus fluorocarbon sinks, and maybe it keeps the bait up above them more if you want them to come up. I could see a lot of different reasons why braid.
Longer casting.
Yeah, you can wung it a lot further.
I wunged it.
Because that's the reel that I have in my boat that is functioning correctly.
I like that reason.
Spinnerbait on a frog rod.
That's the first honest answer we got tonight, Rich.
I saw Riz. He missed a couple in a row on that mega school, and it was driving him nuts. He's stomping like a 3-year-old kid that just got his candy taken away or something. And he's just like, why are they not hooking up?
Oh, he gets fired up, dude. I see him get fired up to go tog fishing, man. He's all about it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I needed that in my boat. But dude, he shows me his reel. He's got a 100 size reel on.
Ooh.
And his line's about just all the way cast off. I'm like, oh, dude, you just turned a 7-to-1 reel into like a 5-to-1, just
yeah.
So we got him hooked up with a 200 size. Chris is taking a vengeance on those dragonfish.
Yeah. I can't wait to throw my 14-inch worm back home in Jersey. Although I do have a few places in mind for that where I think it could play back home. So we'll see.
Dude, I didn't tell you could say 14-inch worm. What the heck?
Might be bigger.
Damn. Yeah. Don't let him dance with your date.
Really?
I don't know. All right.
Resby 14.
All right. Time to go home.
Call it a day.
Guys, we'll let you know if we're having a show next week. No one wants to give an answer. I guess we'll lean on Pete for that.
So, Riz, how much longer are you letting Justin stay at your house?
Oh man, I'm headed back to Jersey tomorrow. I'll be home I'll be home Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, fish the tournament Saturday, fly back out Sunday morning, drive straight to Texas. Hopefully get a day on the water on Fork with our boy Alabama Mike Reed, and then go work the Classic for 4 days and hit the road again, head back to Jersey, and hopefully get my butt out on the bay. So.
Are you guys staying at the bay Friday night? What are you guys doing? Are you?
I'm not. I think they're all going to be down there at Connors, but for me, I'm sleeping in my own bed, my own deal. Drive down in the morning, drink coffee on the way. Listen to that shoe.
I like
That's
it.
My formula.
That's cool.
All right, that's all I got.
That's all you got. Remember that scene from Talladega Nights when
Is this about me?
No, it's about them too. I just saw it when shit, what the hell's his name? Ricky Bobby's boy. What was his name? Cal. When Cal called him up and didn't know how to put the TV in like surround sound and have the radio on at the same time.
Yeah,
because I like to party. How bummed were you when Justin came home? Like, oh man.
I wasn't at all. I was happy. It's just been me. It's just been me and the dog Berman hanging out. You know, trying to get out and fish as much as I can. But no, it was
Got
good.
out and wrecked him one day.
Yeah, it was good
nice.
good to get him back home.
Yeah,
so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap.
So
I'm gonna roll out to this Aquaview spot and
watching from the last few shows. I am coming back on Thursday, so there will be some shipping getting done. If you haven't had your prize yet, it'll be headed to you on Thursday.
There you go. Thanks,
Cool.
guys.
Thanks.
Let's go. Let's take it home. I don't have a big closing.
Literally a revolution in underwater viewing, Aquaview technology now gives anglers the power to instantly deploy, retrieve, and store camera optics with the mere turn of a reel. The user-friendly Micro Revolution underwater camera series is loaded with essential Aquaview innovations: a crystal clear smartphone-grade LCD, critical on-screen data, including water temp and camera direction, digital video recording, and exclusive integrated camera retrieval system.
If you want to spend more time viewing and fishing and less time messing with a cord, the Aquaview Micro Revolution is the only camera you need. When I want to check a spot fast, I can drop the optics and see what's down there, even in deep water, in seconds. And when I'm done, reel up and start fishing. As simple as your favorite fishing reel, but clear and convenient as your smartphone.
The most advanced yet convenient cameras available, the Aquaview Micro Revolution and Micro Revolution Pro set the new standard in mobile underwater viewing. The thinnest, brightest, most colorful screen, progressive on-screen data and recording technology, and a true revolution in underwater viewing efficiency. The #1 name in underwater cameras, Aquaview helps you discover what's really swimming beneath the surface.